Shaggy and Perloff.
Warning.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk.
Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Locked down.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
Let's do it. Let's get to it. Off we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. It's the Rob Brown Show. The Friday. Gotta get down on Friday edition of the show starts now. Great to have you. Happy Friday. You beautiful people, you. It's spectacular to be back with you again on a Friday as we wrap up the work week. What do we get to? What do we get to? Do we get to the absolute demolition job that the Indiana Pacers did last night on the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 6? Yeah, we're going to get to that. You know we're going to get to that. Do we get to the Atlanta Braves sweeping the New York Mets in a 3-game set? Those are your NL East leading New York Mets, or at least they were. Now they're tied with the Phillies because the Bravos handed them a trio of L's over the last 3 days. I made a bet with one of the fellas the other day that if the Bravos, after Game 1, swept the Mets, I'd roll up in here today in Braves gear, looking like a guy who hasn't given up yet. I am. But when I was young in my Atlanta Braves fandom, many, many moons ago, when I was a young man coming into my Braves fandom, I was taught very early that there are a few truths about being an Atlanta Braves fan. Number 1, thou shalt not forsaketh the Bravos. Number 2, thou shalt hate Philly. And number 3, thou shalt hate the Mets. Even as a youth, even as a youngster, I got it. I understood it. I recognized that. And I can tell you that I took that very seriously. To this day, I hate, despise, dislike the New York Metropolitans for various reasons. The biggest reason of all of them, of course, is that I am an Atlanta Braves fan. And that's just what we do. So, yes, even though I do think the Braves season is a wash, even though I do think the Braves are, as the kids say, cooked, even though I do think the Braves season is over, even though I think that the playoffs are a long shot and probably not a possibility for Atlanta, they are still, as we have mentioned a number of times, what is it now? We're the 4th worst record in the National League, the 5th worst record in all of baseball. There's still a lot of work to be done to even kind of look competitive. And that's okay. That's okay. It just kind of is what it is. But what I can say for certain and for sure is that anytime that you sweep the Metropolitans, you hit the celly. Anytime that you sweep the Mets, you go off and you partay hard-a. That was a good night. That was a good night last night. I was sitting in on BetMGM tonight last night, having a conversation with hating-ass Mario, having a conversation with Ryan Horvat. We were talking a little bit about the Braves. Ryan at one point set me up to talk good about the ATL. He said, hey, man, you got any flyers out on the Atlanta Braves to find their way back into the mix? And my answer was, yeah, no, absolutely not. Why would I? Why would I? Yeah, Chris Sale's probably going to the All-Star game. The guy's pitching his lights out. I got to give, all the credit to Spencer Strider, who has looked better and better as of late. I have said a number of times. The biggest thing for me about Spencer Strider has been, without a doubt and unequivocally, the dude lost a little something coming back from the Tommy John. He lost a little bit of the oomph. And as a power pitcher, not a placement pitcher, that is a death sentence. I didn't think there was any coming back from that. Spencer Strider has picked the velo back up from where he was. The last couple of outings, he's looked better. Last night, 6 innings, 1 earned run, 8 Ks, and had the heat going again. It looked like Spencer Strider was back. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been hitting the baseball. Would you look at that? Over the past week, Matt Olson looks like the guy we've been waiting for Matt Olson to be. There's a lot of positive right now. Again, the one thing that the Braves have not shown so far this season is consistency. Hot streaks have happened 2 or 3 times, so I'm not losing my mind yet. I'm not going to sit here and say Los Bravos are back. You are still the 4th worst team in the National League. And let's not forget that in order to get to be the 4th worst team in the National League, you needed the Washington Nationals to go on I believe they're sitting now at 11-game loss streak. You trailed the Nats by 2 games a week ago. It has taken you winning 7 of the last 9. It has taken them losing 11 consecutive baseball games to get yourself to where you are not behind the Washington Nationals. So, let's not sit here and throw a party, yeah? Let's not sit here and act like everything's hunky-dory in Braveslandia. Let's not sit here and act like everything's just going swimmingly because you knocked off the Mets. By the way, I'd like to thank the New York Mets for New York Metsing. It's appreciated. I'm glad they picked a 3-game set in the ATL to go ahead and do a New York Mets. That makes me feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside. But again, let's not sit here for a second and pretend like everything's great. The question now becomes, can you show me any level of consistency? Nothing matters more than that. If the answer to that is no, if the answer is you can't show me consistency, if the answer is you won 3 against the Mets, if the answer is you end up in a next, because you've got a couple of big 3-game sets. We did point out not terribly long ago that the Braves, if I recall correctly, through the rest of the season, have the easiest schedule remaining. Now, let's look at what's coming up. Let's see if there's the opportunity to ride the Momo that you've built up from a 3-game sweep over the New York Mets. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-game set down in sunny South Florida to take on the Marlins. 3-game set on the road at Miami. You've got to play well there. Then it's up to the Big Apple for a 4-game set against the Mets. You got to come away 2-2. Is that a possibility? Absolutely, it's a possibility. Is it a probability? Nah, I don't know. Again, New York's a tough place to play, but it would feel good to split. It'd feel great to take 3 out of 4. Then you're back home on the 27th, 28th, 29th for a 3-gamer against the Phillies. That's the one. That's the series. If out of the next 10 games, 3 on the road at Miami, 4 on the road at New York, 3 at home against Philly, if the Bravos can go, let's say in those 10, if they go 6-4, I'll be thrilled. Honestly, I would be thrilled. Is that like, hey, look at us, we're back, baby, ring the bell, the Bravos are back in it? No, but it'd feel real good. If the Braves go 7-3, I'm vibing, dog. I'm vibing, I'm feeling good. If the Braves go 8-2 through that 10, then obviously we're at a spot where you go, okay, maybe something's clicked here. I don't know what it is. We're not talking about different coaching. We're not talking about different management. We're not talking about the manager making different or better decisions in the pen, in the dugout, whatever. You're not talking about any of that. If the Braves go 7-3, I'm feeling vibes. If they go 8-2, I'm riding high. And I think we all would be. But here's what I know. What I know is the most important game is the next game. But to be at the crib, to have multiple opportunities to blow games that you have been over the past few weeks traditionally blowing, to finish those games, especially like you did in games 2 and games 3. Wednesday night, we were obviously off yesterday, so I did not get the chance to come in and talk about it. But the Wednesday win felt enormous. With Marcell Ozuna coming through in the clutch, with Austin Riley coming through in the clutch, that felt like a good win. Taking the first 2 games, you're going, okay, we're not doing worse than 2 out of 3. That's pretty solid. You felt like you were in a good spot at that point. Then you take game 3. So the question mark is, can the team take the vibes? Can the squad take the vibes to the next level? Can the squad take what they've done the last, 9 of 11? The last 9 out of 11 games, putting dubs up. You had a dumb loss to the Rockies, and your other dumb loss was what? I don't even remember who the other dumb loss was to. You had one to the Rockies. Oh, the Brewers. You had one to the Brewers. But before that, you got swept by the Giants. Before that, you got swept by the Diamondbacks. Before that, you dropped 2 out of the 3 at home against Boston. Before that, you dropped 2 out of the 3 to Philly. Before that, you dropped 2 out of the 3 to San Diego. So it's fine to ride high right now. And I would tell you this, if this was a sweep against the Rockies, whatever, don't care. If this was a sweep against the Marlins, whatever, don't care. Those are some of the worst teams in all of professional baseball. You just swept the team that was in sole possession of first place in the East. You had good pitching performances. As I said just a minute ago, there is no reason Chris Sale's not on an all-star roster in a couple of weeks. There's no reason. Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back. Took him a couple of weeks to, well, not even really. I mean, he was swatting in his first 2 games back, but it took him a minute to get the ball bouncing. He is hot right now. Marcell Ozuna has bailed this team out 2 or 3 times lately, and there's something to be said about that. Matt Olson finally looks like Matt Olson. There's something to be said about that. Like, there are dudes doing dude things right now for this team that my only question mark now is, are you going to be able to take that to the next level? Are you going to be able to carry that forward? Are you going to be able to take the momentum you built up that Chris Sale has given you, that Spencer Schwellenbach has given you, that Ronald Acuna Jr. has given you, that Spencer Strider in his last 2 games has given you, that Marcell Ozuna has given you, that Austin Riley's given you? Can you take all of this momentum now that it feels like there are more dudes hitting the baseball than there were a couple of weeks ago? There are better, consistent, repeated performances off the bump than there were a couple of weeks ago. I'll tell you what I think the biggest thing about this team is right now. The biggest thing about this team, in my opinion, is that this team is doing enough from the dish. This team is doing enough in the field. This team is doing enough on the base pass. And this team is doing enough off the bump that Brian Snitker's decision-making is not coming into it. That has been a big letdown spot for Atlanta. Bad decisions about who's coming in out of the bullpen. Bad decisions about designated hitters and pinch hitters in certain spots. Bad decisions about who's going to the box. Bad decisions about who's going on the bases. Snit's decision-making process, in my opinion, has been at its best questionable. At its best questionable. And what's happening right now is between Ozuna, Olson, Schwellenbach, Strider, Acuna, Riley, you got enough dudes doing enough things enough times on the field that Brian Snitker's decision-making is not having to come into play. And if that's not coming into play because the boys that are playing are the only things in play, then maybe we got a shot. This team has been lacking hitting, lacking pitching, zero relief or closing to speak of, and that has made Snitker's decision-making, and what I think has been a frequent and repetitive number of poor decisions from the manager, be a focus of this team. But when the boys are lining it up, and they're hitting the ball, they're fielding the ball, they're running the bases intelligently, and you got guys going 6 innings with 7, 8, 9, 10 Ks, and they're doing that consistently, Snitker's decision-making process isn't coming into play. And that is the best chance that the Braves can give themselves to do anything. We're a long way from the playoffs. Hell, we're still a month away from the All-Star game. Well, I should rephrase that. We're now a half a month away from the All-Star game. There is plenty of baseball left to go. And that's good for Atlanta. That's good if there's any level of consistency. But if we revert back to what the Braves were 2-3 weeks ago, where you would get one of these fantastic games, hell, maybe a fantastic series, and then you would turn around the next day and watch games where the team's turning in 4-hit performances and 1-run performances, and pitchers are getting run in the 4th and 5th inning after giving up 5 or 6. If we go back to that, none of this matters. But if the Braves can keep doing what they're doing, if the boys can keep hitting the ball, fielding the ball, pitching the ball, running well on the base paths, so that Brian Snitker is covered up completely, maybe there's a wild card berth in there somewhere. Again, a lot of work to do. You are still 10 games behind 2 other teams in this division. That's 10 games you got to make up. But if you stay on this path and you go get 2 or 3 on that 4-game roadie to New York, if you stay on this path and you take 2 out of the 3 against Philly in the next week, if you do all of those things and you shrink this lead down to, let's just say, 6 games by the All-Star break, maybe there's a renewed sense of faith in the second half. All right, we got a lot we got to get to today, ladies and gentlemen, and I am exceptionally glad that you are all here for a few reasons. Number one, no Lonzo today, so your boy is running the show solo. I want you. I need you. Let's get the damn thing. I am putting the show on you. The Hub City Spartanburger text line is open, 844-326-3663, 844-FAN-FONE. That's the same number to call in and be a part of the show. I want your takes. I need your takes. We're going to talk more Braves ball. We're going to talk College World Series. How about the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers? Yeah, playing the LSU Fighting Tigers. It's a Rob Brown Bowl, man. My own college I grew up with. The folks in my family smart enough to go to college, they all went to LSU. I got a little purple and gold blood in me. But I am from South Carolina, baby. I'm Palm Meadows State, true, blue, and all the way through. And if you don't think I'm rocking the mullet, you know what? Coastal Carolina knocks off LSU. I might go carve the Myrtle Beach mullet into the head for a minute. We'll see. Pumped up about the College World Series Finals. We'll break that down coming up here in just a little while. We got to get to the NBA. What the hell was that, Oklahoma City? What the hell was that? We're going to break down what happened last night in Game 6 and set ourselves up for Sunday's Game 7. It's going to be a busy day, y'all. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. The Rob Brown Show's on the radio. It's the Fan Upstate.
Real sports talk, real sports fans.
The Fan Upstate.
Is the sports voice of you, the Upstate fan.
Call 844-FAN-PHONE.
That's 844-326-3663. The Fan. Upstate. The Fan. Upstate.
Brian, good morning, Big Dog. Mike, good morning, Big Dog. Welcome to everybody else. Stay right there. I'll be right back. The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Join us on our live stream at facebook.com/the Fan Upstate. The Fan Upstate on YouTube. The Fan Upstate on Twitter. The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Would love to have you. I am Rob Brown. Alonzo today out on his final day of vacation, a well-earned vacation. He shall return to us on Monday morning. In the meantime, you got me rolling solo. And while I don't ordinarily do the live stream when I am solo, that is only for a lack of desire, not ability. I'm capable of it. I usually just don't want to do the work of four men, as I am, although a hunk of a man, just one man. But I will today, because it's Friday, and you know how Friday shows go. They're weird, they're fun, they're goofy. We're going to get off the rails just a little bit, and we will continue doing that. But before we start getting off the rails, and by the way, shout out to Kane in the chat this morning. Michael is on our live stream this morning. Dan is in our live stream this morning. Who did I see in there? Oh, I saw Kevin in the live stream earlier. We got 32 folks around the internet right now that have joined on the live stream in the first 20 minutes of the broadcast. I hope more of you will join as the show continues this AM. The Fan Upstate on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Join us, and let's have some fun and shenanigans. And if you drop your comments in our live stream, you will be part of the radio program. I treat the live chat just like I do the text line. If you have a take, I will read it on the air if you drop it in there. You can also interact behind the scenes, because while I will go to commercial during the break, as again, I am just one man, an impressive man, but one man doing the work of four. I will have to take some breaks during the breaks, but I will interact with you guys on the break, etc. So jump on there. Let's rock and roll. Let's have at it. Texture says, happy Friday, Rob. Let's get it. Big beers on the horizon. I'm going to tell you right now, there are absolutely big beers on the horizon for the Rob Brown Show coming up this weekend. I've got a lot. I've got a lot to get to. We have got obviously bet for the cycle tomorrow from noon to 4 on the BetMGM network, but we've got the College World Series coming up. LSU, Coastal Carolina, first pitch tomorrow, 7 p.m., 2:30 on Sunday. Could name a champion. Could also be playing another game at 7:30 p.m. on Monday to determine who takes home the crown. We got the NBA Finals, Game 7, which I'm going to get here in just seconds from now. We've got Braves ball. Because, again, 3-game set against the Marlins. If they put back-to-back series sweeps together, there's going to be a lot of beers in the future. I'm going to be like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm going to be in the backyard having my wife throwing me Busch Lights from the other side of the garden, cracking brewskis like skulls if the Braves do it again. So we're going to get to that. But we got a lot to talk about in the NBA. Let's talk about what the hell happened last night, Oklahoma City. You know what? I've asked that question twice. What the hell happened, Oklahoma City? But I really should not ask what the hell happened, Oklahoma City. What we should ask is, what the hell, Indiana Pacers? Goodness gracious me, oh my. That was unbelievable. I think there were a few different things that we could mention about what the Indiana Pacers did last night. I think there's a few different things that we could bring up. I think we got to give some flowers to Rick Carlisle this morning. Indiana in that game last night did two things defensively that I think really made the game for them. Now let's start with where we started. Pacers come out, they go 0 for 8 from the field to start the game. I was on with Horvat and Hayden Asmario. And because I believe in accountability in sports broadcasting, I might be one of the last folks in this industry who still do. But I believe in accountability in sports broadcasting. I thought the Thunder were going to run the Pacers last night. I thought the Thunder were going to smoke Indiana last night. I did not care if they were back in Indiana. I did not care if they were in front of the home court. I did not care if hating-ass Mario's parents were there. I thought, there's no way. Tyrese Halliburton on one wheel. Horvey said, wait a minute, Rob. He's on one wheel, but he's had 3 days to get it right. And I said, hang on, Ryan. Let's look back at the last game. He was on one wheel in the last game. He got busted up in the first half. And what'd he do after that? Literally nothing. He made 4 free throws. He was 0 for the game from the field. He had 4 points, all of them on free throws, and he had 6 assists. I can't work with that. And I thought, there's no way he bounces back. Let's be real clear here. Tyrese Halliburton did not have a stellar night last night. He had 14 points. And that's a fine stat line in the games where he has 14 points, but with 14 assists or 15 assists. He didn't have that last night. He had 14 points and he had 5 assists. So what happened? I would like to flash you all back to Tuesday. I would like to take you all back to Tuesday morning, the morning after the Thunder took a 3-2 lead in Game 5. I would like to take you back to Tuesday morning when TJ McConnell was the dude, the dog, the star. I would like to take you back to this very radio program where I said Rick Carlisle and Tyrese Halliburton may have cost themselves this series. And let's be clear, I could still be right. Because if the Thunder win this thing in Game 7, then I think I would be, to keep it a buck with you. I said Carlisle and Tyrese Halliburton may have cost themselves this series. And my thought behind it was very simple. They should have stayed with TJ McConnell. They should have stayed with that guy. They should have stayed with the guy that Tyrese Halliburton labeled as the Great White Hope. Why? Because TJ McConnell in that moment was incredible. TJ McConnell in that moment was doing everything that team, the Indiana Pacers, needed him to do. He was the MVP of a game that they lost. And he was the MVP who got yanked out of the game. Why? Because too many people fall in love with sports cliches. And I thought that's what happened in Game 5. I was talking to Mario that night. I do a weekly Tuesday night interview spot on BetMGM tonight, where I jump on with Horvey and I jump on with Mario and we talk about whatever. And we got to talking about that game. And we got to talking about how we were going to bet and approach Game 6 back in Indy. And I said that night, maybe this is a hot take. I don't think it is. Maybe it's a hot take, but I felt like TJ McConnell was the hot hand. TJ McConnell was the only reason, because Mario said, wait a minute, Rob Brown, the Pacers got it within 2 in the fourth quarter. And I said, correct. How'd they do that? Was it Tyrese Halliburton with his 0 points and would he have 6 assists? Was it Tyrese Halliburton who, and I pointed this out last night too, going into last night, did you see Tyrese Halliburton's shot chart from the NBA Finals? Through Game 5. And I went back and I checked this like 4 times to make sure it was accurate. Tyrese Halliburton's shot chart was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Tyrese Halliburton going into, or scratch that, coming out of Game 5, made, and this is a total, 2 field goals from the left-hand side of the basket. If I was coaching youth league basketball, and I had even a decent player on my team, and I looked at a 4-game or a 5-game shot chart, and my kid that I thought was a good player had 2 baskets from the left-hand side, I would tell that kid, yo, you can keep shooting. Do not take a shot from the right-hand side in the next game, right? I want you going left. I need you to learn how to go left. I need you to learn how to dribble left. I need you to learn how to move left, how to pick it up left, and how to hit that J from the left, because clearly you either can't or you won't. And what happens in that spot is defenses adapt to that. They're going to start forcing you left. So what I need is to know that I can trust you to go left. What I need is that you can go left, will go left, and will be successful going left. Why? So that in the spot that we need you the most, in the spot where we're in a game that's coming down to the last minute or two, it's a 2-point game one way or the other, when that defense inevitably sets up on the guard with the shade to the right, and they give you left because they don't think you can go left, you can go left, and I know you can score. That's what I need. Tyrese Halliburton went left last night. He went left. That's one thing I'm going to give credit to Tyrese and Rick Halliburton for. Tyrese went left. And even if it didn't lead to a basket, when Tyrese took that steal, went left, drew the defense over, and he passed it over to Pascal Siakam. And Pascal Siakam murdered Jalen Williams on live television last night. Y'all, I kept waiting for Olivia Benson to show up for an on-court edition of SVU because of what Pascal Siakam did to J-Dub last night. When he went left and he found Siakam on the little no-look left hand across the lane, spin around so they don't see it coming, and Siakam murdered J-Dub on that dunk, it was like, oh, ball game. Ball game. There is no coming back from that. You can't do it. So one of the things that I give credit to Tyrese and Rick Carlisle for is recognizing that the Thunder were making Tyrese go left. So the Pacers played into that. They moved guys to the left. They said, if you're going to give us the left, we're going to take it. And they took it a lot last night. The second thing was the way that Indy was breaking down on defense. SGA pointed this out in his post-game press conference last night. He said they were picking us up at half court. In games gone by, the Pacers were playing a full court press. And the problem was they were playing it, but they weren't generating a lot off of it. They were playing the full court press, but they weren't getting a lot out of it. They weren't getting a lot of turnovers. They weren't getting a lot of they were getting pressure, but it kind of felt like it was pressure for pressure's sake, right? It didn't feel like they were creating turnovers. It didn't feel like they were creating takeaways. It didn't feel like they were creating rushed shots out of the Thunder. It really just felt like, and maybe this is for good, but all it felt like it was doing was it was making the Thunder go deeper into the shot clock, which is fine. You want the Thunder working on offense. I want to move in. I want to get guys moving on. I want to wear the legs down so that when we get the ball back and we play Pacer basketball, which is fast as hell, boy, up and down the floor 150 times a game, you've had to work so hard on offense that it's now harder to work on defense. And that system worked, but that ain't what they did last night. Last night, the Pacers were picking them up at the half court. Last night, they were allowing the Thunder to feel like they were coming down the floor and getting into their half court set. And then when they crossed the line, then Indiana set the defense. A lot of 3-2, couple of spots they were in a 1-3-1, a lot of setting up in the 2-3 and then shifting out to a man. They were giving them different looks in different possessions, but they weren't showing what that look was going to be until the Thunder crossed the half-court line. And so it was like every time the Thunder crossed the half court and they had to wait for the Indy defense to get set up, then they had to, on the fly, and 9, 10, 11 seconds deep into the shot clock, then they had to evaluate the defense, then they had to pick their play, then they had to set the play, then they had to run the play. And the Thunder were getting real deep into the shot clock. They were throwing up a handful of panicked looks, and the shots weren't falling. It was magnifique, absolute perfection from Rick Carlisle. We have given them 5 games of full court pressure where we haven't been disguising the defense. We haven't been showing them different looks. It's been, we're picking you up in the full court. We're going to ride the ball carrier to the half court. And when you get there, the other 4 guys are already going to be set. We're going to give our 4 guys time to get down there, get set up, mark their man, mark their zone, whatever they're playing. We're going to give our 4 guys time to get set so that when you cross the half court, our defense is ready to go. Last night, not what they did. They brought the boys back. They kind of loosely got set up, and when the ball crossed half court with no pressure on it, they went bang, 2-3 zone, bang, 1-3-1, bang man to the outside, bang man to the inside. They basically spent most of the game collapsed around the paint and saying, look, we're not going to let SGA do SGA stuff. We're not going to let J-Dub do J-Dub stuff. If you're going to beat us, it's going to be Chet. It's going to be Caruso. It's going to be literally anybody else. And nobody else showed up for the Thunder. Nobody else was able to answer the bell. Nobody else was able to be that guy. And because nobody else was able to be that guy, Indy was just able to effectively do what they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it, and there wasn't much else to it. I thought Rick Carlisle did a great job. I thought Tyrese Halliburton off the injury did a great job adapting. And I thought the Indy defense, taking away SGA, taking away J-Dub, and making the rest of that team say, who's going to hit the cha-ching Thunder money ball to step up and be the hero? And the answer was, last night, nobody. Now, will it work again in Game 7? Let's talk a little bit about that. Because Sunday night, somebody's lifting the Larry O'Brien. Neither one of these teams deserves to lose the NBA championship. Somebody's going to. I'll give you my early thoughts. Not quite ready to make a prediction. Let's see if I talk myself into one. Next on The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Listen on your phone. Download the Odyssey app and search
The Fan.
Upstate.
All right, guys, thanks for being here. Stay right there. I will be right back.
experience ED, but HIMS can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Get in the game on the Rob Brown Show.
Only on the Fan.
The Fan.
Upstate.
I could not have been more wrong about last night's NBA Finals Game 6. I could not have been more impressed with last night's NBA Finals Game 6. What Indiana did last night was impressive, doesn't describe it. They had a 30-point lead at one point. The Thunder had Indy down, 12-2 early in the game. The Pacers went 0 for 8 out the gate. And then it was just all Indiana the rest of the way. This is not even a joke. We were doing the show last night, and my take was, I'm on the Thunder, I'm on the cover, had a handful of Thunder props last night. None of them hit. I got everything wrong about that game last night. But I was feeling real high when the Pacers went 0 for 8 to start the game. At one point in the 8:40 segment towards, scratch that. At the end of the 8 o'clock hour, I got up. We got about a 6-minute break at the end of every hour. We go out at about 8:54. We come back right at 9 o'clock. Same break as this show. Same clock as this show. So it gets to be 8:54. I got 6 minutes. I wanted to go grab myself a bevy, hit the restroom, let the dogs out. I got 6 minutes to burn. So I get up. I go out, let the dogs out. Dogs do their business. Bring the dogs back in. I go to the kitchen. I grab a bevy. I go to the restroom. I wash my hands because I'm not a barbarian like some of y'all out there. I go sit back down, and in the time that I got up, let the dogs out, grabbed a water, went to the bathroom, washed my hands, and came back to the desk and sat down, it had gone from a 12-2 Thunder lead to like a 12-point Pacers lead, and the building was buzzing, man. Like you could feel it. It was unbelievable. I did not know what to say about that. I asked Ryan, I'm like, yo, are the Pacers good right now? And his answer was, yup. That was it. That was the whole takeaway. Yup. I love what the Indiana Pacers did last night. I love that they changed up the way that they attacked everything. They reminded me last night, and not that they will have the same results, but they reminded me last night of all the good things that I was saying about the Florida Panthers in their run to their back-to-back Stanley Cup championship. Now, not in terms of being bullies, not in terms of Brad Marchand ball, but in terms of the adaptability, in terms of the way the game changed. What Indiana did in that game 6 last night, was different than what they had done, honestly, in the last 5 games, including their road win in OKC in Game 1, including their crib win back at Indy in Game 3. Offensively, the game was okay, especially since Tyrese is banged up. We know he's banged up. They know he's banged up. They're going to attack Tyrese Halliburton. So what we want to do is we want Tyrese involved, but we want Tyrese to get rid of the ball quicker. We don't want him having to do as much. So what do we need to do to make that happen? Our wing guys are going to play a little bit higher up. Our free throw line elbow extended guy is going to play outside of the three-point arc. Miles is going to have to do a lot more running from block to block, elbow to elbow. They did those two things, and it worked. They were able to get the ball across the half-court line with Tyrese Halliburton, but they gave Tyrese Halliburton more room to operate with by pulling the offensive. They pulled offensive players to him. And because they pulled offensive players to him, defensive players had to kind of back off a little bit. When you've got wing guys playing deep in the corner, when you've got a guy running the free throw line both extended both ways, and you've got Tyrese bringing the ball over the half-court set, you can jump the double team because the passes to get to the next guy are a little longer. They're a little more difficult. I thought last night they shortened up the length to the next pass, and by doing that, Tyrese had more options that he was able to get to faster in the possession, and you were giving those guys a little more room to operate. So they could shade to Tyrese, but they couldn't jump him. Number two, and I think this is one of the things that I think we need to emphasize the most. I'm not saying Tyrese Halliburton was like faking the injury. I'm not even saying he was exaggerating the injury. I'm saying one of two things. Either A, I'd really like to know what pain meds Tyrese was taking last night because Wednesday night, knowing that I did not have to work on Thursday morning. Wednesday night, your boy stayed up a little late. All right, a couple of the fellas jumped on the Xbox. We played a little Baldur's Gate 3, a little D&D on the Xbox late into the evening. We didn't have any games going on, right? Stanley Cup was over. NBA Finals game wasn't until last night. We really didn't have much going on. There was some College World Series to talk about, to watch. LSU and Arkansas, which, by the way, a spectacular game for everybody who's not an Arkansas fan. We'll get to that later in the show. But got online playing some video games with the boys and was sitting in the bro cave on the couch. And at one point while we were playing, Robbie B had to sneeze, let her rip. And when I tell you that something in my back popped and I was dead to rights, like told the lady, she was still awake late into the night, way later than her bedtime is ordinarily. I sneezed. She said from the other room, that sounded like it hurt. And I was like, yo, it sounded like it hurt because it bleeping hurts, dude. She's like, are you good? Nope, I'm not. I threw something out my back sneezing, all right? So whatever Tyrese Halliburton was on the other night, I, as a 40-year-old man who hurts himself sneezing, apparently, I would like some of that because the only solution I had that night was silver tequila. That's all I had. Or number two, Tyrese Halliburton is just an absolute certified G and said, yeah, I don't care if I die out there. I'm getting through this to get this thing extended to Game 7 so we can go win a national championship, a world championship. Either way, Tyrese gets some flowers for what he did last night. And as I pointed out, Tyrese ended the game with what, 14.6 assists? A 14-point night for Tyrese Halliburton. I expect to have 14 assists attached to it. He didn't have that last night, but he didn't need it last night because Rick Carlisle tailored that offense perfectly, tailored that defense perfectly. And then you were able to lean on TJ McCollum, and you were able to lean on Obi ain't no stopping topping. Kid was fantastic last night, 20 points. We have spent a lot of time talking about TJ McConnell, and rightfully so. TJ McConnell's been spectacular in these playoffs. The dude who deserves more credit is Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin's been out of this world, man. He's just been absolutely unbelievable, and he deserves to be talked about more. But that's kind of what this Pacers team is, and we talked about this. The Indiana Pacers are the best team. I'm not talking about on paper. I'm not talking about talent. This equation's real simple. Nobody plays team basketball better than the Indiana Pacers. They understand their strengths, and they play to them. Their strengths last night were TJ, Obi Toppin, and whoever else is scoring buckets in that moment. TJ, Obi Toppin, whoever else is scoring buckets in the moment, and they cater to that. They understand their weaknesses. Last night, Tyrese Halliburton could not be the guy that he usually is, so they cater the entire offense around that. Defensively, they recognize there's only two guys on the other team that have been hurting us. The MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Jalen Williams. The only two dudes that have been hurting us. So, let's change the defense to get after them the second they cross the half court. Let's change the defense and say, if you want to win, it's going to be on Chet. It's going to be on Caruso. It's going to be on somebody else. And last night, the Thunder could not find that somebody else. SGA, J-Dub could not get the rock to where it needed to be for the Thunder to succeed. And it doesn't hurt, of course, when you can't make a bucket to save your ass. And last night, the Thunder couldn't make a bucket to save their ass. A lot of those were late in the shot clock. A lot of those were maybe not the shot they ordinarily would have taken in that spot, but they had to get something up. All of that is because of what the Pacers were doing last night. And again, I think that Rick Carlisle deserves a lot of credit for that. I think Tyrese Halliburton deserves a lot of credit for that. And I think TJ and Obi Toppin deserve a lot of credit for that. I was blown away by the Pacers last night. Can they do it again in Game 7 now that the Thunder have seen it? Now that the Thunder have been exposed to it? Now that the Thunder and Dagnall are going to have 10 minutes to go back to the office and break down film? I don't know. Here's what I do know. The best words in sports are Game 7 of the Finals. Sunday night, Game 7 of the Finals. Hey, speaking of the NBA Finals, the Finals are headed to a Game 7. Did I mention that? After the Indiana Pacers, dismantled the Oklahoma City Thunder last night, 108-91. The Pacers missed their first 8 shots, but went on a heater, leading by as many as 30 in the third. Halliburton played despite a calf injury, recording 14 and 5 assists, but the leading scorer, Obi Toppin, with 20 off the bench. The U.S. men's national soccer team into the knockout round of the CONCACAF Gold Cup after a 1-0 victory over Saudi Arabia last night. Chris Richards scored the lone goal off of a second-half free kick from Sebastian Berhalter, giving the Americans 3 points. Trinidad and Tobago played to a 1-1 draw, clinching a spot for the Yanks. And the Braves finished a 3-game sweep with the division-leading Mets last night, a 7-1 victory. Spencer Strider earned the dub of the second of the year, going 6 innings with 5 hits, 1 run, and 8 Ks. The Braves had 8 hits, including a pair from Nick Allen and Matt Olson. Olson's 3-run RBI double in the 6th broke the game open for Atlanta, who have won 3 in a row, 7 of 9, and now trail the Mets by 10 in the East.
Unique and unlike any other sports talk show.
All right, guys, 1 hour in the books. Do me a favor, stay right there. I'm going to run to the restroom and wash my hands. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Locked down.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown rolling solo today. Lonzo out on his final day of vacation will rejoin us on Monday. Looking forward to having the great one back in the saddle again. You get me for 4 uninterrupted hours this morning. I'm going to go home. I'm going to take a super long nap. And then do it again tonight. Back on at BetMGM tonight, 7 to 11 p.m. So you get, and I'm so sorry, or you're welcome, for like 3 of you, 8 hours of Rob Brown on your radios today. I'm sorry. What do you want me to say? I like to work, and my job is sitting around talking about sports for a living. It's pretty sweet work if you can get it. All right. Tell you what we got going on today on the show. Coming up here in just mere moments from now, your water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports this morning. Coming up in the next segment, you've gotten my thoughts on Game 6, couple of thoughts about Game 7. We will get the same from the host of the Pat Boyle Show, which you can hear leading into this show every morning from 2 until 6 a.m. because he's a vampire. Patty B, my guy, my dog, my amigo, my hombre. Pat Boyle going to join the show in the next segment. We'll get his thoughts on the NBA Finals Game 6 and 7 coming up in the next segment. At 9 o'clock, we'll be joined by the hatin' ass Mario on the radio broadcast. He, of course, a big Pacers guy who did not think that Indiana had a shot in this series. Last night, my man was standing up on the broadcast, fist pumping like Tiger Woods knocking down an 80-footer on 16 at the Masters. So we will talk to hatin' Mario at 9 o'clock, get his thoughts on the NBA Finals as well. We'll also talk some College World Series, LSU, and the Coastal Carolina. Say it with me, Chanticleers going at it. Saturday Game 1, Sunday Game 2, and fingers crossed if necessary, Sunday Game 3 to hand out a trophy. We will give you some thoughts on the College World Series later on in the broadcast as well. But, my dudes and dudettes, it is 7 o'clock in the morning. It is 7:05 in the morning. You have less than 55 minutes till you got to get that booty in the office, in the chair for the final day of the work week. And I know what gives you sustenance. I know what gets you through the day. It's those 4, 5, 10 breaks you take throughout the day where you walk down the hallway, you go grab Janice from shipping, you head on over to the water cooler and you talk sports. Janice loves sports. You love sports. You like talking sports with Janice. But you got to know what's going on. You don't want to embarrass yourself in front of Janice. Well, don't you worry, dear friends. That's why I, and you're welcome in advance, do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
You hear that?
even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go.
Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports with your friends, your family, your coworkers, your dog, whoever you spend your day with. Let's dive right in with item number 1. We have talked about it already this morning. We won't spend a ton of time on it here, but the NBA Finals have a Game 7 Sunday night, ladies and gentlemen, a 108-91 win for the Indiana Pacers in a game that, frankly, wasn't that close. The Pacers led by as many as 30 in the contest last night. They won the opening quarter by 3. They won the second quarter by 19. When it was all said and done, a 22-point halftime lead. They would win the third quarter by 8. In fact, the only quarter that the Thunder won was the fourth. They won it 31-18, but at that point, they were, again, behind as many as 30, so it really didn't matter. The Thunder were 8 of 30 from behind the three-point line. The problem was 7 of those 8 makes came late in the game after the game had effectively already been decided. They made 1 3-point shot in minutes that mattered. They made 1 3-point shot when the game was actually being contested. For the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton on that busted wheel. 23 minutes played. And again, none of your starters played more than 32 minutes. Pascal Siakam played 32. Nembhard played 31. Nobody else played more than 26, mainly because this game was over for basically the entirety of the fourth quarter and the last handful of minutes of the third. Tyrese Halliburton on the bum wheel, 14 points, 5 assists, a pair of steals, and a board to be tossed in. The leading scorer for the Indiana Pacers last night, Obi, ain't no stopping, topping off the bench. He had 20 on 6 of 12 from the floor, 4 of 7 from range. TJ McConnell pitched in 12 points last night on 6 of 12 from the floor. He also had 9 boards and 6 assists. Listen, he's not going to win it. It's never going to go to a bench player. It's never going to go to a reserve player. But I will stand on business right now. TJ McConnell's the MVP of this series. Okay? He just is. He's been the spark player. He's been the plug and play off the bench. He's been the guy that can do whatever you need him to do, and he's done it well and consistently. He's not going to win it because they're not going to give it to a guy who's playing 22, 24 minutes every game. But TJ McConnell has been easily the most important player for the Indiana Pacers in this series at large. We'll talk more about that later on in the show. The Pacers go 38 of 92, a 41.3% percentage from the floor, 15 of 42 for 36% from 3. They knocked down 17 of their 25 free throws. I will say this before we head to Game 7. Pacers are going to have to be better from the free throw line because I don't think Game 7's a blowout no matter what. Either direction. I do not think it's a blowout in either direction. The Pacers are going to need to do better than 17 of 25 from the charity stripe. Oklahoma City, 42% from the floor on 31 of 74. Look, when you have effectively 20 fewer buckets or attempts, I should say, you better shoot better than 42%. And I know that 42%, that's a pretty good NBA average. I shouldn't say it's a good NBA average. It's on average for the NBA. But if you're going to get, 18 fewer attempts from the field, you better shoot better than 50% if you want to give yourself a shot to win. Again, 8 of 30, but 7 of those 8 from behind the arc came after the game was effectively already over. 21 turnovers for the Oklahoma City Thunder to just 10 for the Pacers. 8 of those came from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That was a career high in the turnover market. It is what it is. That basketball team played the worst game of the postseason thus far. We'll have some more thoughts again. Pat Boyle from the Pat Boyle Show joining us in the next segment to talk a little bit of NBA championship basketball. Let's talk about the Atlanta Braves for item number 2. Last night, complete a 3-game sweep of the NL East leading New York Metropolitans. It was as good as you want from this squad. What do you want me to say? I didn't expect it. You didn't expect it. Nobody expected it. It was the best baseball that this baseball team has played so far this year, and it was not particularly close. No, stop it. God dog it. There is nothing, especially when it's that voice, nothing I despise more than autoplay videos, dude. They're just the worst. If I wanted your website to play a video, I would tell it to play a video, okay? If I wanted it to, I'd tell it to play the video. That's all there is to it. Now,
he is done. Donnie Kelly has made.
See, this is why I don't do the show by myself. I don't want to be in charge of any of this. All right? I don't want to be in charge of any of this. All right, Matt Olson.
The change after 4. to Heaney, and that ball's doused by McKinstry.
That's not even the right clip. What are we doing here, Rob Brown? What are we doing? Matt Olson with a bases-clearing double in the sixth inning last night. The Braves take their third straight out of three. Spencer Strider gets his second win of the year. He's looking more in form. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 8 punchies, just 1 walk for Spencer Strider last night. He is now 2-5 on the season. Remember, most of those losses came after Spencer Strider came back for 1 game from his Tommy John, ended up pulling a hammy, had to sit another couple of weeks. He's taken most of those losses since his return, but now Spence is looking like Spencer Strider. Again, gets his second win. His ERA starting to drop a little bit. It was up over 4.25. It's now down at 3.9 and falling, went 97 pitches last night. Look, Braves still got to get better out of the pen and in the relief roles, but De Los Santos, who had a horrible outing in that game that the Braves dropped to the Rockies that cost themselves the sweep, he came in 1 inning, no hits, no runs, K2. Lee came in 1 inning, no hits, no runs, K1. Montero came in to close, 1 hit, 2 punchies to end in the 9th. The Braves get the sweep of the Mets. They are now only 10 games back of New York and Philly, who are tied for the divisional lead. So we'll talk more Braves ball a little bit later on in the show. We wrap it up out in Omaha, Nebraska, as on Wednesday night, we had a pair of teams who clinched. Both of them now headed to the College World Series final. The LSU Fighting Tigers, the Bayou Bengals get the walk-off dub over the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Hernandez, you can see him there in the foreground. He is the winning run. He does get one to hit. It's off the glove of the second baseman, and here comes Hernandez. LSU is on to the finals. They pitched to Jones, and it bounced off the glove of Cam Kojal. And the Tigers are going back to the finals.
I'm relatively sure at this point Arkansas baseball's cursed. I've just decided that they're cursed. They had the Tigers dead to rights. Had LSU dead to rights. Now, they still would have had to turn around and win a game last night. They had to win 2. LSU had to win 1, but had them dead to rights. And they had 3 things go wrong. Number 1, they had an opportunity with a runner on second and first and 1 out. Had an opportunity to turn a double play. Instead, because reasons, shortstop tries to get the out at third. Ends up being a bad play. LSU was able to get a run there. Then we go to the third, and a sharp hit ball out to left field. But left fielder just can't field it clean. Bounces off the glove, rolls all the way to the corner. LSU scores a couple. They tie the game up. Then you heard the walk-off there. LSU knocks off Arkansas despite trailing 5-2 coming into that. They end up winning 6-5 in the bottom of the 9th inning. Absolutely embarrassing for Arkansas. Remember, Arkansas had a chance to win the, 2018 College World Series against Oregon State. And Oregon State scored on a fly ball that just dropped between 3 hogs. Everybody trying to call each other off. Nobody actually made the catch. Oregon State, the Beavs would go on to win the Natty that year. Arkansas, just a cursed baseball team at this point. LSU, the exact opposite, back to the finals for the first time in a long time. And who are they going to meet on the other side of the bracket? Ladies and gentlemen, the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. They are no joke. Told you coming in. Coastal's not a Cinderella story. They're not a fun story. They're not a cute story. They're a damn good baseball team, and they proved it. They dog walk in the bracket championship to move on. LSU v. Coastal. I'm going to give you some thoughts on that game, on that series, later on in the show. But we got to run to a break. Because joining us in the next segment, he is the host of the nationally syndicated Pat Boyle Show. Patty B, my guy, my dog, my homie, my amigo, Pat Boyle, going to join us in the next segment. We'll break down the NBA Finals, what he sees happening in Game 7, coming up next on The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. I got Pat Boyle up next for you to talk some hoops.
844-326-3663. That's 844-FAN-PHONE. This is the Rod Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Wait for it. Gotta let the beat drop. There's no bass. It's just a bass line. What are we doing here? Welcome back to Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown rolling solo with you today. Why? Because I can, because I want to, and because I love you, the people. I'm willing to put in a little bit of extra work. You know who else loves you, the people? You know who else I love? The host of the nationally syndicated Pat Boyle Show, which you can hear every weekday morning as the lead into this radio program from 2 to 6 a.m. because I'm relatively sure at this point he is a vampire. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome in one of the handsomest men in all of sports talk radio, the legendary, the illustrious Pat Boyle, joining us here on the show. Patty B, what's the word, big fella? How we feeling, partner?
It's a Friday morning. It's a beautiful sky in many parts of the great U.S. of A. And Rob Brown, it is the summer solstice. It's the start of summer. I mean, you couldn't get me down if you tried, my brother. The only thing that could get me down as a New York Knicks fan is if I have to watch the Pacers win the NBA title on Sunday. But until then, I'm going to hold firm that the Thunder are going to win this game on Sunday. I know we're going to talk about it, but I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about the impending doom that could happen if they don't win on Sunday. But I'm doing great, man. It is Friday. It is beautiful, and you're beautiful.
My favorite thing about you, Pat Boyle, is that you are very, very good at keeping your fandom out of it and staying totally neutral when it comes to these games. I appreciate that about you.
I lost you for a second. You said I'm very good at what? A bunch of things and being ridiculously good-looking?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I said, without a doubt, and nothing to the contrary. Pat Boyle, host of the Pat Boyle Show here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, let's start with this. Take the Knicks hat off, all right? Throw it in the back seat for just a minute, Pat Boyle. What did the Pacers...
Fine.
I know, it's a big ask, but you're a big-time celebrity now. I expect you to do better than playing solitaire when you watch the NBA Finals, Pat B. What did the Pacers do right last night?
I mean, they beat the Thunder at their own game in a certain sense. I mean, OKC was the second. They had the second-best turnover differential in the last 30 years in the NBA. Right? I mean, they were number one in turnovers forced, number one in points off turnovers, number one in steals all season. That's how they obliterated Minnesota. That's how they destroyed Memphis. That is how they overcame the Denver Nuggets. And yet, for a couple of games in this series, and especially last night, Indiana beat them at their own game. They forced 21 turnovers. They got 19 points off those turnovers. Pacers took care of the basketball. OKC was sloppy. OKC looked like the second youngest team in NBA Finals history. And that is a team that is asked to go on the road to a raucous Gainbridge Fieldhouse and then try to win the title. And they were very careless with the basketball. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP, had a career-worst 8 turnovers. 8 of them by the MVP. I mean, everything they touched turned to crap, whereas everything Indiana touched turned to gold. So, I mean, they were super aggressive with their double teams. How many times would we see a ball handler from the opposing team of Oklahoma City dribble into the paint and then try to gather to go up for a layup or then stop as they're about to make their move, and then they get double teamed, somebody swarms them from behind, strips the ball away? That is what Indiana did to Oklahoma City yesterday so many times. Jumping into the passing lanes. Tyrese Halliburton, the one time where he's back trailing Jalen Williams, then steps into the passing lane, picks it off, tips it, and then goes the spinorama no-look pass to Pascal Siakam, who then throws down the hammer and posterizes J-Dub, and that was basically the nail in the coffin in the second quarter last night. That was the main reason, Rob, and the other reason why Indiana was able to do it is because they hit some big threes. They got points off the bench from Obi Toppin, former New York Knick. The fact that he's not playing for the Knicks anymore breaks my beloved heart. Obi Toppin with 20 off the bench. T.J. McConnell, as Halliburton said, the great white hope, going for 9 boards, 6 assists, 4 steals. It was a collective effort. That's what makes the Pacers dangerous. They are some of their parts. You might game plan for Pascal Siakam, and you might be able to slow him down a little bit. you might game plan for Halliburton, and on a strained calf, even though it is absolutely embellished, I didn't see a limp, I didn't see a grimace, I didn't see a gimp, I didn't see a gobble. You can game plan for Halliburton, and you might be able to slow him down, but then you got to worry about Andrew Nemhard. Then you got to worry about Obi Toppin. Then you got to worry about T.J. McConnell. They've got so many different guys that can get after you, and they played Pacer basketball better than maybe any game they've played Pacer basketball this season. Season on the line, title on the line. OKC came in a little nervous, a little rattled, and they sent them to the canvas in the second quarter. It was an astonishing performance, and it was a cerebral effort.
I got to give you credit, Pat Boyle, because the next question I was going to ask after you absolutely ripped the Thunder to start that. And by the way, 100% correct in doing so. But my next question was going to be, are we going to give the Pacers any credit for what they did and how they played? Because I spent a lot of my first hour this morning handing Rick Carlisle flowers. And I've been calling this guy the best head coach in the league since Pop stepped away, and I stand on that at this point. Part of the reason is we saw an adaptability last night, right? Like, all right, Tyrese is not 100%. We know it. They know it. How do we game plan around that? I thought they moved the offense toward Tyrese to kind of shorten up the passing lanes, give him more options, allow him to have a little more flexibility in how he attacked what's supposed to be very good Thunder defense. I thought the coaching scheme we saw out of Rick Carlisle and the Pacers last night went a long way, changing up the defense from a full court to a half court, changing it up to where they were showing different looks, but they were waiting until the Thunder got to half court so that they had to dig into the book later into the play clock. I thought the Pacers were that was the team I expected in terms of the way Rick Carlisle coached them up to give them the best chance to win last night.
Yeah, I agree with so much of what you said, and I think that changing from picking them up 94 feet to just letting OKC come to them, I thought it was a brilliant change in the approach. And like you said, once they then got into the half court, it was like, all right, here's a look you haven't seen before. Here's a blitz you haven't seen before. Have fun dealing with this. And it's just when you think that Rick Carlisle, a lot of people are suddenly calling him Tricky Ricky now. I don't know where that came from. But just when you think that Rick Carlisle is out of tricks, and you'll have to excuse me here, Rob, because I am getting gas. So excuse me 1 second. Can I get 25 regular, man? Thank you very much.
Wait, Pat Boyle. Wait a minute. Are you in a place where somebody else pumps your gas for you?
That's the great state of New Jersey, my friend.
Wow. See, that doesn't happen down here in the South, buddy. You get your ass out of your car and you pump your own gas.
Now, I am more than capable of pumping my own gas. And as you know, I am on the way to see the lady friend who lives in Philadelphia. So if I were to get gas in another 20 minutes from now, then I would be pumping my own gas. But luckily, I am still in the great state of New Jersey where we don't pump our gas. We don't pump our own gas. We create more jobs for the economy. I'm sorry that I live in a better state.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been nice having Pat Boyle on the airways here in South Carolina. We'll see if that sticks after this. All right. Let's get back to the game last night. We know the Thunder played sloppy. SGA had the worst game, 8 turnovers. You mentioned that, career high for him. They couldn't find the bucket to save their lives last night. Was that because of what Indiana was doing, or was that just an off night for OKC, in your opinion?
I think it was a little bit of both. 1 sec, Rob.
Yep, of course. We're gonna wait for Pat Boyle to get. He's got a priority. He's going to see the lady. Needs a little gasoline before he gets down to the Philly area. So we'll give Patty B a moment to get some gas here. I respect that.
Well, you know what? It's funny because as I'm telling you that we don't pump our own gas in New Jersey, the gas station that I'm at is having an issue with multiple pumps. This is now the third gas pump that I have been at. So. It's okay, and I apologize for disrupting the show in any manner whatsoever. No, I think it was a little bit of both. I think it was Indiana played, again, like I said, the best brand of Pacers basketball that they could possibly play. And, yeah, I mean, OKC, the approach was getting back to what we were talking about defensively. Indiana packed the paint, right? I mean, they couldn't stop Jalen Williams from getting to the rim. And even then, he had 16 points basically in one half. I mean, that game was over at halftime. And But, when he tried to get to the paint, when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tried to get to the paint, Indiana said, we are going to put 4 points. You are going to kick it out, and you are going to have somebody else try to beat us with a three-pointer from the perimeter. And OKC's game is not built on threes. So that when Indiana did that, it's, okay, we know you're trying to close us out on the road. Good luck making these shots, Lou Dort. Good luck making these shots, Chet Holmgren. And OKC, if they're at home, maybe they make those shots. But they're on the road, they felt the pressure, and they cracked. And I think it's, you can't have one without having the other. So OKC played very poorly. They turned the ball over way more times than I expected. They couldn't hit a shot to save their lives. But also credit Rick Carlisle, credit Indiana. Their defensive pressure, their swarming was on another level. So it was a little bit of both. And I expect things to look a lot different on Sunday night.
I don't disagree. I thought last night was Indiana saying, SGA's you're not going to be the guy. We know J-Dub, he can't be the guy. He's been the guy a couple of times. We're going to have to do something about that. And I thought that the way Indiana shifted the defensive shape to say somebody else is going to have to be it, to me, it also kind of pointed out what I think has been a big hindrance. Everybody's been talking about for Indy, Miles Turner's a great piece to the team, but he's not a guy down low. Chet Holmgren, I thought, was having a hell of a postseason run, but has really kind of been ineffective in these finals. And if they can't get Chet going in Game 7, we might be talking again next week about a shock upset, maybe the biggest upset in NBA Finals history, Pat Boyle, if they can't turn Chet Holmgren back into what he was in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and he's had a difficult time dealing with Miles Turner's physicality and also Pascal Siakam and even a little bit of Tony Bradley, who continues to get some minutes. If nothing else, just as another body, just as a blockade to just slow down Chet Holmgren. He's 7'1", but the man looks like a toothpick. So they said, we're going to make things real difficult for Buddy. We're going to lean on him like a heavyweight boxing fight, like we saw our buddy, the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, do to Deontay Wilder a couple of years ago. The bigger, heavier guy, even though they're in the same weight class, he weighed on him. He clinched on him over and over and over again, and he wore him out. That is what the Pacers are doing to Chet Holmgren. They are wearing on him. They are using the size, the weight, the advantage, the physicality. I mean, Miles Turner, I think, wait a minute, Rob, what was that? Oh, Chet Holmgren just had another shot blocked by Miles Turner. He's got to learn. You've got to close. You've got to create that distance for yourself with your speed and with your handling, because you're not going to just do it with your, straight up with your size. So every time he tries to drive one-on-one against Miles Turner and be physical, it's not going to work. He's got to use his finesse. He's got to use the spin move that he's capable of doing for a guy that's 7'1". He's got to use his skill set, and he can't try to beat Miles Turner like a bull in a china shop. He's also got to hit some threes. I mean, he's a three-point shooter. He's a guy that can hit threes. He's a guy that has shot 35 to 40% from deep, and yet he hasn't been able to buy a three for most of the series. So, look, I don't necessarily know if it's just if Chet Holmgren is the make or break X factor in this Game 7 on Sunday night. It's the two big dogs. It's SGA and J-Dub. They've got to combine for 65 points. And then the other big player that's got to show up on Sunday night is Alex Caruso. He's got to get 15 to 20 points. He's got to make it happen with 3 steals. I mean, he didn't score a single point. He was a minus 33 in the box score last night. That's just for a guy that they have now come to expect big-time performances from. They need that from him. And then defensively, they need Lou Dort to put Halliburton in the torture chamber. Like the Pacers have worn on Chet Holmgren. That's what the Thunder need to do for Halliburton. Make him feel every single time he steps into the paint. And really, let's find out what that cap looks like, right? Look, let's get dirty. Let's get in the trenches. That's how the Thunder need to play at home. And they'll have the crowd advantage. And I know that it's easy to get to, be a prisoner of the moment and say, oh, well, momentum is a hell of a drug in the NBA. But, I mean, we saw OKC grab all the momentum in Game 5. Indy grabbed it right back in Game 6. The Thunder have not lost back-to-back games this entire postseason. They've only lost back-to-back games twice, and they're the best team in the NBA this year. I think they have grown up at many different stages in this postseason, and I think they're going to grow up and put their big boy pants on one more time and lift Larry O'Brien's trophy on Sunday night.
Pat Boyle, host of the Pat Boyle Show, 2 to 6 a.m. on the Infinity Sports Network. And this very radio station, Pat, before we let you go, I know you're off for the weekend, but do me a favor. When you get back on the air Monday up there in the Big Apple, will you, on behalf of me and everyone in Braves Nation, send our regards to the New York Mets, please?
I mean, death, taxes, and the Braves owning the New York Mets. I mean, it's just a tale as old as time. You know, it doesn't matter if Spencer Strider, I know he was dominant in his last outing, but it doesn't matter if Spencer Strider had given up 9 runs in the 2 outings before that. He's going to go out and shove. Chris Sale, they're not going to touch him. And, you know, wouldn't it be nice if we're looking back in October and the Braves are popping champagne as they're celebrating a postseason appearance, and they're saying, man, as they're getting ready to start the playoffs, man, remember when we were down and out? Remember when we started the season 0-7? Remember when we were still, off the top of my head, what are the Braves? Still 6 games under 500 or 4 games under 500 now? Remember when we were deep in the trenches and then we turned our season around against the New York Mets? That's what it feels like this past couple of days were for the ATL.
Pat Boyle hosts the Pat Boyle Show. You can hear it on this very radio station. 2 to 6 a.m. is the lead-in to this radio program. Pat Boyle is also just an outstanding human being. Patty B, you're the best. I appreciate you, brother. Enjoy your weekend in Philly, and we'll talk to you next week and talk a little NBA Finals, partner.
Absolutely, and I apologize for the gas station disruptions, but hey, sometimes that's what happens when you're the best economy in the United States. You create jobs for folks, and you know sometimes the pumps don't work, so you gotta shift around a couple of spots.
Hey, whatever y'all need to say to feel better about holding your noses high in the air and saying other people do the menial work for me. Good for you guys for figuring that out. I'm proud of you.
Have a great weekend.
You got it, Pat Boyle. That is the man, the myth, the icon, Patty B, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in a minute, wrap up hour number 2. Rob Brown and just me. I'm here by myself. You're welcome. It's the Rob Brown Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, be right back. Stay right there for me. Thanks again to Pat Boyle for joining the radio program. We appreciate his time, as always, as he's on the road to Philly to go see the lady friend down there in Pennsylvania. Pat Boyle working the overnight 2 to 6 a.m. and then spending some time with us here on the show. Again, greatly appreciated. Hayden asked Mario Herron from the BetMGM Network. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we will get his perspective. Patty B talking from the perspective of somebody who's Team Thunder. We'll get the perspective of somebody who is Team Pacers from Hayden asked Mario coming up here in about an hour and 20 minutes from right now. College World Series finals coming up this weekend. The LSU Tigers, the Bayou Bengals, knocking off an Arkansas team that at this point I am convinced, and I don't think I can be walked off the ledge, is just cursed. They just can't win. They're just not allowed to win. I can't explain it. I don't understand it. They're just not allowed to win a national championship in baseball. LSU, on the other hand, very much is, and we'll have one more opportunity. Of course, they take on the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers coming up this weekend. Game 1 is tomorrow at 7 p.m. Game 2 is going to be Sunday at 2:30 in the afternoon. Game number 3, if necessary, will take place Monday night at 7:30 p.m. If we do not crown a champion over the weekend, we will do so on Monday. Look, these two teams are two remarkable baseball teams. They are two teams that are very similar in a lot of ways and very different in others. LSU is a team that I think, I'll start with this. Both of these teams are vibes teams, aura teams, right? They're energetic. They've got their own very, very special and very unique culture. And I will tell you, and I think that this is true, and I think the two teams that made it to the College World Series finals are, to some degree, the proof of that. I think that with college baseball, maybe more so than any other sport. And before you football people blow up the Hub City Spartanburger text line at 844-326-3663, where a texter says, appreciate the solo work, brother. You're welcome, texter. It's quite literally my job, but I'm happy to do it. Before you football bros blow me up on the text line, again, 844-326-3663. I am not saying that culture is unimportant in any other college sport. I'm saying I think it is the most important in college baseball. And here's why. With football, and obviously the conversation here is kind of centralized on the big schools, right? We are talking about the schools that can compete for national championships in whatever sport we're talking about. And this does open the door for a lot more teams in college baseball than it does in college football. But I think the conversation here is about teams that are national championship caliber. Football culture is very important. But I've also said before and would say again, the culture at Georgia is not like markedly different from the culture at Ohio State, is not markedly different than the culture at a bunch of different schools, Texas, etc. There are hallmarks of each culture, but it's not like at the end of the day, the culture is that dramatically different. In baseball, it absolutely is. Baseball is a very unique sport. It's a very different sport. It is a sport where the locker room culture can stand out in ways that it does not in other sports. I think in baseball, when you are talking about championship caliber teams, again, I'm not talking about the smaller schools. I'm not talking about the group of 5 schools in football. I'm talking about national championship caliber teams. In baseball, because of the fact that there is not a lot of NIL money going around. And this may very well change in the era of the House v. NCAA settlement. This may very well change in the era of roster limitations, not scholarship amounts. But in the era of scholarship amounts, where you were only allowed to have so many guys in the locker room, or scratch that, you could have as many guys in the locker room as you wanted, but you only had the opportunity to provide so many guys with scholarships. In the scholarship era, which is coming to its conclusion either Sunday or Monday, because the next time college baseball fires up, we will be in the College Sports Commission, the House v. NCAA settlement era. When you were allowed to have as many guys on the baseball team as you wanted, but you were only allowed to have whatever the number was. In baseball, it was only like 11 and a half scholarships, right? You had a lot of guys who were walk-ons. You had a lot of guys who were on partial scholarships, right? When I was attending the University of West Florida, and they had a baseball team, and they had a scholarship limit like everybody else. I remember talking to some of the guys on the baseball team because I did a year or two as the play-by-play guy for UWF baseball. When I was doing that, I remember having conversations with some of the baseball players who were telling me, I'm on a 20% scholarship. I'm on a 50% scholarship. There was one kid that I remember that this kind of blew me out of the water. He was on a 10% scholarship. 10%. It was a weird number. But the point was, they wanted this kid on the team. They had to throw him a little something, right? So they gave him a 10% scholarship. The other 90% of the scholarship was split up between other players, right? Like a lot of walk-on guys, but we want to make sure they're at least getting something. 10% might be enough to cover the books, or 10% might be you're going to pay your own way. Consider this 10% a stipend or whatever. You can save 10% of your money to utilize the way you want to use it. When you have to build a program that way, you have to have kids who want to be on the team. We have talked about recruiting in the new era of college football. And I have made the point that, and we talked about the Lenora Sellers story earlier this week, and I said, this is a testament to, that's what I was trying to say. Words are hard. I are Englishing good. That is a testament to what happens when you go get guys, recruit guys, develop guys who want to remain loyal to you, who want to remain loyal to your program, who want to remain loyal to your school. And that might get progressively more difficult to do because kids lie. They may very well say, yeah, coach, I love you, coach. I love this school, coach. I love this locker room, coach. I love the brand, coach. I love the logo, coach. But somebody calls them from another school with another coach and another brand and another logo, and that coach, school, brand, and logo offers them 4 times the NIL money or 3 times the revenue share money that the initial school is going to offer them. It might get real tempting to sign on that dotted line of that intent to transfer letter, right? So when you get a Lenora Sellers, who, if his pops was telling the truth, and I don't have any reason to believe that he was not, if you get a Lenora Sellers who says, yeah, $8 million sounds great, but I signed on to play for this school. That's how you put together a good football team. That is baseball. That is how college baseball has worked. You are limited by, have been up until now, up until this year, limited by the number of scholarships you can give away, which means that you are almost exclusively recruiting kids who want to play for your school, want to play for your brand. Now, that changed up a little bit with the transfer portal, right? There are I believe 2 kids on the LSU roster right now that were South Carolina Gamecock players. Again, they left after the head coach they signed up to play for in Columbia was dismissed from his duties, but they were kids who signed up to play for South Carolina. South Carolina changed what they signed on to play for. They went down to LSU because they liked the culture there. It clearly worked out for them. That is part of the reason that I am very on board for this College World Series Finals. Because these 2 schools, LSU and Coastal Carolina, have two of the most unique cultures in college sports at large. You all know the story. There is right now in Omaha, Nebraska, there is right now like a 30-foot-long fiberglass tiger on a semi-truck trailer that is just being dragged in circles around the stadium. LSU's got a wild group of fans, man. Like different breed of, pardon the pun, cats there at LSU. And then there's Coastal Carolina with the mullets and the tank tops and their mascot, instead of riding a car or a truck or a motorcycle onto the field, rides a wave runner on wheels. They got that Myrtle Beach culture. And the kids who go there buy all the way the hell into it. These are two of the most unique cultures in college baseball, two of the most unique cultures in college sports. And I think that these two schools, if I may pat myself on the back for just one moment, I think these two schools and these two baseball programs effectively prove what I've been saying for a long time now, which is, if you want to have success in college sports at large, yes, you've got to give away the $20.5 million in revenue sharing. Yes, you've got to have a good collective. Yes, that collective has to do a good job of collecting money and distributing money to star athletes. You have to do all of those things. That is not an option if you want to be a championship caliber squad. Yes, you have to do those things, and you have to do them well. But you know what the other thing you have to do is? And we've talked about this relentlessly, and again, I think LSU and Coastal on the baseball diamond are proof of it. You have to have a great culture. You have to build a great culture. You have to maintain that great culture. And then you have to go find kids who fit into that culture and kids who want to stay in that culture. You have to do that in every sport too. To me, it is equally as important as the $20.5 million in revenue sharing and distributing that wisely amongst your athletic departments. And it is as important as building a great NIL program and handling your NIL program intelligently as well. Building that culture, maintaining that culture, selling that culture, finding kids who want to be in that culture, and then creating a culture that makes those kids want to stay in it. Remember, you recruit a kid 3 times. You recruit them once to get there. You recruit them twice to stay there, and you recruit them a 3rd time to recruit other kids to be there. You got to sell him on why he should sell that program to other kids. You do that, you're going to be successful. It is part of the reason I remain very high on Shane Beamer. I think Shane Beamer is having success not just because he's a good coach, but because I think Shane Beamer, as well as anybody else, has built a great culture and is maintaining that culture. It is definitively the reason that Dabo Swinney's been on top of the game. They have built a unique culture to Clemson. They maintain that culture, and they have kids going out and selling that culture to other kids. You do those things, you give yourself a chance. LSU and Coastal playing for the College World Series are absolute proof of that. The College Football Playoff Committee wrapped up meetings in Asheville over the weekend with no decisions about the future format of the playoffs to be determined. Executive Director Rich Clark said all formats are still on the table and that there's not a leading contender, but that the committee will evaluate its selection metrics as requested by the SEC and the Big Ten. The Men's College World Series final starts tomorrow with Coastal Carolina facing LSU in the championship. The Tigers faced a 2-run deficit against Arkansas in the 9th when a pair of fielding mistakes allowed 3 runs for the win. Coastal Carolina smoked Louisville 11-3 for their 26th consecutive win to claim their spot in the finals. Game 1 tomorrow at 7, Game 2 Sunday at 2:30, if necessary, Game 3 Monday at 7:30. The Atlanta Braves finished a 3-game sweep of the division-leading New York Mets with a 7-1 victory last night. Spencer Strider earned his 2nd win of the year, going 6 with 5 hits, 1 run, and 8 strikeouts. The Braves had 8 hits, including a pair from Nick Allen and Matt Olson. Olson's 3 RBI double in the 6th broke the game open for Atlanta, who have won 3 in a row, 7 of 9, and trail the Mets by 10 games in the division.
Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey.
All right, guys, that is 2 hours in the books. Audio Blitz up next. Hayden Ask Mario at 9. Stay right there. We'll be right back. Okay. Thank you, Nolan. Appreciate that correction. I knew they had a kid. I just couldn't remember if he took up before or after. But thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. I will get that right. It's Braswell, right? Mike Braswell? Wasn't he the one?
Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Only on
The Fan Upstate.
Accountability matters in this industry, even if I'm the only one who believes that. So allow me to correct something. I said that LSU had a Carolina kid or two on that roster. I was incorrect. They have one. I believe it is Michael Braswell, and he left before Kingston was fired, so that is incorrect. I still think my point stands, but I appreciate Nolan jumping in the chat on our live stream and correcting that for me. It was doing it off the top of my head, so that's on me. That's my bad, but I appreciate him jumping in there and correcting that for me. That's what we do. We own it, all right? I own it. That's my bad. All right. Let's get to a couple of things here on the show. Let's get to the audio blitz. Some of the best audio we have picked up since the last time we did the audio blitz. We were out yesterday, so I got a couple for you today. Let's jump in with some of the sound that we picked up. By the way, the Hub City Spartanburger text line is open for you, 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE. If you would like to shoot us a text, you can do it there. You can also call that number and get on the air. If you want to jump on, have the conversation this morning, you're certainly welcome and encouraged to do that. You can hit me on the X at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show. That is also my Instagram handle. If you want to toss me a follow over there, you are welcome to. And, of course, you can drop a line in the email inbox, rob.brown at thefanupstate.com, rob.brown at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways to get in touch with the program this morning. Final hour of Friday, as it always is, in Armada Audio Assault. The final hour belongs to you. Anything you want to get to, anything you want to chat about. Hayden Ask Mario going to join us at 9 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on the NBA Finals. Outside of that, anything that you want to comment on, critique, discuss, whatever. I got you covered. 844-326-3663 at The Rob Brown Show. All right. Let's get to a couple of things. Now, you may have missed it. We spent a little bit of time talking about the Indiana Fever. I thought the WNBA had a big moment of growth the other day. Caitlin Clark's been getting the crap beat out of her on the WNBA floor since she showed up. And while a lot of people have complained about that, my take's kind of been the opposite. I understand it. I get it. I'm not against it. Here's the reality. If the other team knows that you can beat their ass, then harass them. Then beat up on their star. Get after their star. Make it hard for their star to thrive and survive. And make it a priority for them to defend their star. That is what you should do. That is old school. That is classic. And a lot of teams have taken that to heart. The Fever the other day, for the first time, kind of started to defend Caitlin Clark. Specifically, the enforcer, Sophie Cunningham, who they picked up in this offseason, who has been nothing more than the muscle around Caitlin Clark. Well, after that game was over, Caitlin Clark, as we assume she would be, was asked in the postgame press conference, hey, what do you make about that? What do you make about the text? What do you make about the ejections? What do you make about the flagrants? What do you make? What do you make? What do you make? And Caitlin Clark answered that question like a certified G.
And then what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
Do you think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
I'll ask about the game too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys came for basketball.
Yeah,
Let's talk about basketball. Yeah. Come on now.
What do you think of just how you all were able to pull away in the second half, Caitlin, in particular?
We're going to the Commissioner Cup Championship.
Let's go!
Pretty exciting. Y'all want to talk about that?
That's Caitlin Clark. Y'all want to talk about that? Let's talk about that. She said, yo, it was basketball. You heard the coach say at the beginning, they said, how do you view that flagrant foul? She said, I view it like a flagrant foul. They said, what about the game? What about the I view it like a flagrant foul. They tried to get Caitlin Clark to talk about it. They tried to get her to open up. And she said, It's basketball. Y'all came to watch basketball. Let's talk about basketball. That's the mentality of a star. That's the mentality I'm looking for. I'm going to get the crap beat out of me. I know I'm going to get the crap beat out of me. I'm going to keep playing. And that's all she's done. I respect it. Like I said, there is a reason that this young lady is right now, in my opinion, the third most celebrity basketball player on planet Earth. It's LeBron 1, it's Steph 2, and it's Caitlin Clark 3. And if she keeps that mentality, she's going to keep that mentality for a very long time. Let's get to another one. That one's old. I missed the window on that one. So let's go with this one. It's a short clip, but we talked about the College World Series in the last segment. We talked about the fact that the two teams playing for a college baseball championship have their own unique culture. They had their own unique culture. They have their own vibes around the locker room, and I think that it is pretty evident that my theory about culture, about how building a culture, maintaining a culture, getting kids who want to be in that culture holds up. How about head coach of the Coastal Carolina, say it with me, Chanticleers, making it very clear that they are the Coastal Carolina, say it with me, Chanticleers.
Everybody say it with me, Chanticleers. Chanticleers. Not Chanticleers, Chanticleers.
I love that so much.
Everybody say it with me, Chanticleers. Chanticleers. Not Chanticleers, Chanticleers.
My man said, we are here. We are them. Put up the ones. Acknowledge us. Get our damn name right, because we're going to be here for a minute. That sounds like kind of a ha-ha funny throwaway clip from Kevin Schnall, right? That sounds like kind of Kevin Schnall's just up there having a good time talking baseball. And to some degree it was. But here's the thing. When Kevin Schnall took over that program, he had been in the program. He understood what the culture of that program was. Coastal Carolina understood that they had a culture in that program. And instead of going outside and trying to find a name and going, hey, we won a natty a couple of years ago and we want to go back, let's go get a name. They said, whoa. We won a natty because we got a culture. We've been a threat to win a natty because we got a culture. We want to keep winning natties because we've got a culture. So let's get a guy that understands the culture. And so while that clip absolutely might sound like kind of a one-off throwaway clip, I actually think it's deeper than that. I don't think I'm reading too much into it. What Kevin Schnall was saying there was not a ha-ha funny throwaway clip. What Kevin Schnall was saying there is, we're a national power. What Kevin Schnall was saying there is, we matter. We're relevant, and damn it, we're not going anywhere. So get our name right. Know who we are. Give us that respect. We've earned it. And I think they have. I think that Kevin Schnall grabbing that mic and saying, yo, this is who the hell we are. Get our name right. Say our name right. Let's do this. If I'm a player, that fires me up. If I'm a player and I know that my HC is willing to grab the mic and address little things like that, go to bat so that people say our bleeping names right, that's the type of cat I want to play for. That's the type of cat I want to get down with. I love it. All right, we got the CONCACAF Gold Cup going on right now. Team USA plays to a 1-0 win over Saudi Arabia yesterday evening. 6 points through 2 games. That is good enough to clinch them a spot in the knockout round of the Gold Cup. Got to get one more point in order to win the group. They have won the group, I believe, 16 out of 17 now. The one time they didn't win it, they were second. But it's not our A squad. We don't have Gioreno. We don't have Weston McKennie. We don't have Christian Pulisic. Some of these guys are playing in the FIFA World Cup, Club World Cup. Some of these guys like Pulisic are either out injured, taking a sabbatical, whatever you want to call it. So we brought a lot of young guys. We brought a lot of MLS guys. We brought a bunch of C&D squad guys. I still think it's important. I think it's important for the sake of finding chemistry. I think it's important for the point of establishing culture. I think it is important for finding depth. A lot of the guys that are playing right now, a lot of them are not going to be playing in the World Cup next year. Some of them maybe. When we kind of find out how the roster is going to shape up, when we kind of find out who's not going to be available, who is. Some of these guys are going to be the depth guys. Some of these guys are going to be the guys that round out the roster, that are going to be the reservist. Hey, if things get desperate and we need you, and we know you fit in because you proved it. Some of these guys are going to be the practice squad guys. How many coaches have you heard say practice squad guys are mighty important? They're the guys that have to learn the other team's playbook better than our starters do. So when training rolls around, they can go out there and be that team, and we can play that team to the best of our possibilities. One of the things that is very interesting is of the guys that are not there, we have referred to them, Reyna, McKinney, Pulisic, whatever, as the golden generation. We have referred to them as the golden generation quite a bit. Taylor Twellman, who has had some hot takes on U.S. soccer, but as much as he's had some hot takes, he's also had some takes that I fully agree with. Taylor Twellman had a take the other day on U.S. soccer that I think it is very important that we acknowledge. Taylor Twellman the other day said, and he's guilty of this too, part of the reason that the culture is the culture is that we've been calling them for 3, 4, 5, 6 years now the golden generation, and maybe we've been doing it without them earning it.
I need to raise my hand. I'm a huge culprit to calling this the golden generation of player, because when the United States failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2017, I asked the question, what are we doing? But I asked the question because where is the progression? When the United States lost to Belgium in the round of 16 2014 World Cup, and Tim Howard had to make 7,000 saves. Why am I bringing that up? How do you compete against Belgium, Argentina, Brazil, and Italy's of the world? I thought Pulisic, McKennie, Reyna, Tyler Adams, all of these young American players playing at the clubs that we as Americans have never been, that was a huge step into changing the perspective of the American player. The problem is my dumbass calling them the golden generation of players consistently put them on a pedestal where they haven't had a signature win. And that is the difference. Every one of us that have played for the national team have a signature win within our generation. We all do. We can pinpoint it. We can show you highlights. This one, what is it?
He's right. He's right. I'm a USMNT fan, have been since college, since I was a soccer guy, introduced as a soccer guy. I am Team USA football. I own like 4 Team USA soccer jerseys. I'm all on. I was pumped about this generation. It is, on paper, the single most talented generation of American soccer players that we have ever had. Hands down, no questions asked. It is the single most talented group of players to ever adorn the Stars and Stripes. However, we started calling them that. We started telling them that. I think they started believing that. And they haven't done a damn thing to earn that. Again, what's the signature win? We've pulled off a couple of wins. We've pulled off a couple of wins against international sides, but none of them are like in the World Cup, right? Beating El Tri, El Mexico the last couple of years. I'll always take a win over the rival, but like Mexico is in a state of upheaval in the soccer world right now. So it's great. It's great to beat the rivals, but it's not like something that you look at and go, hell yeah, that's a sit. They don't have that signature win. And Taylor Twellman's got a point. I wonder if perhaps maybe a little bit we didn't kind of do this to ourselves, or maybe do it to them. We didn't create this monster that this team has, I should say, frankly, not become. I think he might have a point. All right, here's what I want to do. I want to take a break. And I want to take a break because I got a couple more segments that I want to do before we get to the final hour of the show. I got Hate and Ask Mario lined up for you at 9 a.m. to talk NBA Finals. So here's what we got. I want to talk a little bit about a conversation that I have changed my opinion on in 2 days, 180 degrees. 2 days ago, I heard a take. 2 days ago, I had a knee-jerk reaction where I went the hell after Bomani Jones. And then I thought about it. And after spending a couple of hours thinking about it, my entire perspective on this topic came 180 degrees. Not like I've changed my mind about an aspect of it or one element or one... No. I got completely turned around and won over by an argument. And I want to address that. Is it superficial? Maybe a little bit, but I also think it's important. I'll get to that. 2 days ago on the show, I said the Florida Panthers are the model franchise in sports. I want to go a little bit deeper into that conversation too, because I think that's an important one. All that more coming up on the Rob Brown Show. All that more coming up on the Fan Upstate.
The Rich Eisen Show, today at noon, only on the Fan.
Whoops. All right, guys, stay right there. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Here's how to get in the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
What I'm about to talk about is a very superficial thing. It is also something that I think is mucho importante. When Rob Brown was a younger and more formidable man back in my day, my father, before he passed, we used to get into one debate. We used to get into one debate more than any other debate. And that debate was about dressing up. My old man had a rule, which is you always dress one step further than what you are required to wear to an event. So if the event is business casual, you wear business. If it's business, wear business formal, right? You always dress one step ahead. And the old man always said, as I think every old man ever has always said, you get one shot at making a first impression. And whether it is fair or not, he also used to say, life's not fair, kid, get used to it. Whether it is fair or not, people make a first impression of you within 8 seconds. It takes 8 seconds to make a first impression, and it can take hours to overcome a negative first impression. And if you make a good first impression, you got to screw up a lot before somebody who likes you to not like you anymore. That was a piece of advice my old man gave me for a very long time. And that is something I took to heart. If I get called by one of our folks downstairs, hey, Rob Brown, we got a potential sponsor, client, advertiser, partner that's a big fan. We want you to come meet the guy. I will always ask, tell me about this guy. What is he going to be wearing at the meeting? And if they tell me, oh, this guy's always in shorts and a T-shirt, I'm showing up in jeans and a polo. If they say, oh, he's always in khakis and a polo, I'm showing up in dress pants and a dress shirt. If it's always in dress pants and a dress shirt, I'm showing up in a dress pant, dress shirts, and a tie. If it's always he's in a shirt and tie, I'm showing up in a suit because I want to walk in and have that guy go, he's put together, but he's like in my realm, right? Is it manipulation? You're damn right it is. Is it successful? You're damn right it is. So here's the superficial conversation. The NBA Finals are not being treated like the NBA Finals by the NBA. Go back and watch the Finals from the past couple of years, and you'll notice a few things. Number one, and the most obvious is, in the last handful of years, on the NBA Finals floor, no matter which team was playing at home that evening, underneath the logo of the home team, there was a big-ass sticker on the floor of the Larry O'Brien Trophy. That is not there this year. In fact, there is nothing on the floor other than a cursive NBA Finals on the corners of the court on both sides. You would not know from looking at the floor at the jump that you're watching an NBA Finals game. Number two, during the breaks and all that, they very rarely go out of their way to mention that you're watching the NBA Finals. It's usually like just kind of a thing they say in passing. All right, you're watching the NBA Finals. We're back after this. They're not being treated like the NBA Finals. Now, I want to play you a clip that I heard from Bomani Jones a couple of days ago. And I want to play it because this is the exact clip I heard. I had a visceral knee-jerk reaction to it. I was like, this is dumb as hell. Why are we spending time on this? Why are we talking about it? It is also a clip that stayed in my brain for about 24 hours. And in about 24 hours, this clip turned me from a dude who went, Bomani, I like you. I like your pod. You're wasting our time. To, he's kind of got a point. So I'm going to play you the clip. I'm going to let you have the knee-jerk reaction. Say if you have the same one that I did, and then I'll tell you what changed my mind after the clip.
I have seen people online raise the very fair question, why is there so much discussion about putting the trophy decal on the floor. And I would argue that it's not so much specifically about the trophy decal itself. It is about the fact that the way that the finals have been presented has made the games just feel like games, as opposed to something that is a really big deal. You'll hear people make the point when talking about sports that it's entertainment, and that is not true. Sports is entertaining, but it is far more significant to people than entertainment. Yeah, there's an occasional movie franchise that gets people lining up at night and they talk about it for days or whatever it is. It doesn't mean the same thing to people. It doesn't pass down through families in that way. It doesn't transcend generations in that way. If you treat sports like entertainment, then sports get treated like the rest of entertainment gets treated right now, which is something that is not intended to be excellent, something that is not intended to be momentous, something that is not intended to be monumental, but simply something intended to occupy your time and attention. Play up the pageantry, play up the stuff around it. An audience needs it.
So, the first time I heard that take, my knee-jerk reaction was, overrated take. I don't get it. It is the NBA Finals. If you're an NBA fan, if you're a basketball fan, you're tuned in. You don't need the pageantry. You don't need the big stickers on the court. You don't need the logos. You don't need the special songs and the announcers losing their minds going into and coming out of breaks. You don't need all of that. But then I really started to think about it. And I 180'd that opinion. I do think the NBA is doing a disservice for two reasons. Number one, if you are not playing up the pageantry, if you are not playing up the importance of this event, then the fringe viewers, they're not going to catch that emotion. You can say whatever you want, and I know it sounds dramatic, but people are hooked by pageantry. We just are. We like drama. We like pageantry. People are hooked by pageantry. They are hooked by celebrations. And you can say they're not, but here's the thing. We're like 2.5 weeks away from the 4th of July, right? Now, it's a holiday we should all love. It's a holiday we should all celebrate. We should celebrate all the things that this country is. And, by the way, we should celebrate it because we are rapidly approaching the 250th anniversary of this country, right? What are, even just in this market, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of us going to do on the 4th of July? Now, you could celebrate this at home. You could celebrate this in your backyard. You could celebrate this with hot dogs and hamburgers and a pool and cold brewskis, American made, in your backyard with your closest relatives, loved ones, friends, and family. But what are many of us going to do? We're going to get in the car. We're going to go to a park, or we're going to go to we're going to go downtown, or we're going to drive to the city center hall, of the city hall or whatever, and we're going to watch fireworks. Now, all the firework is we mix some chemicals into a shell, we blast it up into the sky, it blows up, and it makes pretty colors, which is badass. But it's the pageantry of that. It's the show in that we love. So the NBA not putting on more of a show, outside of the basketball, which has been a great series, the NBA not putting on a show and playing up the pageantry and the tradition and the history and all that of the NBA Finals, I think may kind of cost you fringe viewers. Now, I don't really care about that all that much. The NBA makes a metric ass load of money. That league's not going anywhere. The games aren't going anywhere. They're going to be fine. There is another reason that I care about this. The other reason I care about this is because what is Rob Brown's biggest complaint as an NBA fan? What is the number one thing I have gone off on for years? If you followed this show for any length of time, you know what it is, or at least you got a good guess. What Rob Brown has complained about more than anything else over the years as an NBA fan is, I think We need to do better for the small market franchises in the NBA. We need to do better for Milwaukee. We need to do better for New Orleans. We need to do better for Indiana and Oklahoma City. So we have an NBA Finals that is 7-game banger. We've had a blowout both ways. We've had a couple of really close games, and here we go into an elimination game on Sunday night between two small markets. So there are a lot of people nationally that it wasn't LA, and it wasn't New York, and it wasn't Chicago, and it wasn't Detroit. It wasn't the big markets. It wasn't the names. It wasn't the pageantry that comes along with those cities. How great was, whether you loved it or you hated it, when the New York Knicks made it into the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know about you. I thoroughly enjoyed watching the Knicks fans lose their bleeping minds on the streets of the Big Apple. But when New York got bounced by Indiana, the city of New York checked out from the NBA playoffs. They just did. When the Los Angeles Lakers got bounced from the NBA playoffs, the city of Los Angeles checked out from the NBA playoffs. Now, you're going to lose a large percentage of fans who only care about their team and they're just not going to watch anybody else. But I also believe of that percentage of fans, there's a large percentage of fans, hell, I'm one of them, that if my team's not involved, I still want to watch great basketball. If my team's not involved, I still care. If my team's not involved, I still want to watch an excellent exhibition of my favorite sport. I just do. So when the NBA decides that they have a 7-game banger between two small market teams, and they do, unfortunately, not play up the pageantry, the pride, the tradition, the history, when they don't make it feel like an NBA Finals, as a fan of a small market team, it makes it feel like a disservice to me. As a fan of a small market team, it makes it feel to me like no matter what we do and no matter what happens, we can't win. It makes it feel like even the NBA doesn't care about the small market teams. And here's the reality. If the NBA makes it feel like they don't care about the small market teams won't be cared about. And if the small market teams won't be cared about, you can't get new fans on board. So here's Indiana and here's Oklahoma City putting on an absolute slapper of a series. Two small market teams, absolute slapper of a 7-game series. This is a point where these two teams should genuinely be picking up fans. SGA should be becoming one of the most popular players in the NBA. Tyrese Halliburton should be becoming an absolute superstar in the NBA. All of these things should be happening. And what I'm looking at here is I tuned in last night for Game 6, which turned into be a legendary game for the Indiana Pacers, a game that should have gotten fans in. And I'm going to guess when the ratings come out a few days from now, they're not going to be that high, which is a damn shame for the NBA. The vibe I get, and maybe this is, like I said this on the show last night, maybe I'm playing the victim here. Maybe I'm making myself unnecessarily into a victim because I am a fan of a small market team, and I do not feel like the association is set up in a way that my team will ever be able to succeed. I will take it on the chin. My team is not setting itself up to succeed. My team has a garbage head coach they refuse to move on from. My team has an owner who only owns the team as a medal of prestige. I have an owner who only owns the team so that she can be a part of New Orleans high society. She only owns the team so she can be invited to Mardi Gras balls every February, March. I have a general manager who is very clearly past his prime. I have a superstar talent who just either can't stay healthy or can't stay in shape. I acknowledge that my team is hurting itself enough. And I acknowledge that maybe this victimization card, maybe I should tear it up and light it on fire because, hey, here's an NBA Finals with 2 small market teams in it. So maybe they can succeed. I don't know. But what I do know is this. The Bucks got there and won at one time. The Bucks have Giannis Antetokounmpo. What's happened with Milwaukee since they won a title? Not a damn thing. They're about to lose Giannis Antetokounmpo. Outside of that, what other small market success has there been? Very little of it. So even if I say 2 small market teams competing for a championship, I can't say, because of what's happened or not happened with every other small market team, I can't say that I think the league is setting itself up to allow the small markets to compete for NBA titles. In fact, I feel the exact opposite. So when 2 teams from small markets get there, and when 2 teams from small markets get there, are playing damn good basketball and are putting on an absolutely electric NBA Finals, and when it just feels like I'm watching 7 Inside the NBA on TNT Tuesday night March games instead of watching the NBA Finals, when I'm not seeing the big-time halftime displays, when the only thing that even feels finals-ish is that in the last 2 games, they've done the starting lineups on TV. That's it. That's all that's special. We don't get the big floor decals. I don't even think the NBA Finals patch is on the front of the jersey. I think they put the NBA Finals patch on the back of the jersey. So when I see SGA and Tyrese Halliburton's faces, you don't see the big Larry O'Brien patch on the front of the jersey. I think it's only on the back. There's no pageantry here. So there's no reason for people who are maybe fringe viewers to dial in. There's maybe no people who are like bandwagoners to go, oh, I'm an SGA guy now. I'm an Oklahoma City guy now. I'm a Halliburton guy. I'm a TJ McConnell guy. I'm a Pacers guy now. There's no room for that, which means that we are about to have, whether the Pacers win this thing and have the biggest NBA Finals upset of all time, whether the Thunder win and take MVP to join Michael Jordan as the only 2 players to win the scoring title, the MVP. Sorry, let me try that again. SGA to join Michael Jordan as the only 2 players to win the scoring title, the MVP, and the Finals championship in the same year. Mike's the only guy to do it. SGA could join him if they win Game 7. Despite all those things happening, it just feels like we're watching regular NBA games. And if we're watching regular NBA games and the fringe can't get involved on that, you're doing nothing to help 2 small markets grow their fan base and prove that small markets can long-term be competitive. And my biggest fear is that these 2 teams get rated by New York, get rated by Chicago, get rated by the Lakers and the Clippers, get rated by Dallas, get rated by these other teams, RAIDED, not RATED, get rated by these other teams, and some of these pieces, like TJ McConnell, they go elsewhere. And these 2 teams take the path of the Milwaukee Bucks. They got a superstar on the squad. They get their 1 ring or their 1 finals appearance, and then they just nosedive back into obscurity because they can't afford, and the NBA does not help promote the small markets enough to stay competitive for a very long time. This take from Bomani aggravated the crap out of me when I heard it, and 24 hours later, as a small market NBA fan, I went, he's kind of got a point. He's kind of right. The NBA has taken all the pride and pageantry tradition out of the NBA Finals. They are not celebrating it as the absolute historic moment that it always has been celebrated, that it should be celebrated as. They have taken all of that out of the equation. And because they've taken all of that out of the equation, the small market teams aren't going to be able to go anywhere because of it. I pushed the wrong button. Break.
The College World Series final gets
That was awesome. Good job, me. I'll stay right there. I got to hit the restroom. I'll be right back. Good Lord, that was terrible.
LSU 7 national.
All right, I'm going to get to my Florida Panther take here in just a second, but somebody on the text line has brought out the nerd in me. Got a couple of texts on the Hub City Spartanburger text line, 844-326-3663. I'll run through these, and then I'll get to that Panthers take here in just a second. The Florida Panthers are the franchise that your favorite franchise should strive to be right now. They are right now the most, I'm going to say dominant. I think I'm comfortable with dominant. Yes, they've won back-to-back. It's superficially dominant, but there's a reason for that. I'm coming to that here in just a second. Stick with me, but I do have to address a couple of texts. Before I do, Texas said the NBA didn't start showing player introductions or did start showing player introductions for the first time since like 2014. I agree, which is the reason why I pointed that out specifically, right? Like the fact that that's the only thing that has been done so far in this NBA Finals that makes it feel like an NBA Finals was they finally added something. And in this case, the something is they're showing the lineups, they're showing the player introductions. That's really it. Like, it feels like that's the only thing that they have done that is different than any other regular set of games that have happened so far this season. Everything else just kind of feels like it's a regular set of NBA games. And that stinks, man. Like, that's tough. Especially as somebody that's a fan of a small market team, wants to see more success. I think the league would be better off. I think we would enjoy more if it felt like there was more parity, if it didn't feel like it was the same couple of teams every single year that were in it. Even if it's a different champ, the same teams repeatedly. The fact that this series between two small market teams, which has been an absolutely electric series, just feels like a set of games. It does not feel like it is being treated as a legitimate NBA series is kind of disappointing. There is one more text, though, that I really wanted to address. And that text is the texter who said, I can't get past the fact that Rob said sports is entertaining and not sports are entertaining. Dear texter, I would like to address that very rapidly, if you don't mind. That sentence, as I said it, is grammatically correct. I'm about to nerd out on you. In the way that I phrase that sentence, sports is being treated as a collective singular noun. The word sports is taking all of the sports and wrapping them up into one entity. So while the word sports is ordinarily a plural collective noun, as in I am saying, instead of saying basketball and baseball and soccer and hockey and tennis and lacrosse and swimming and diving and track and field and blah, 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 and using sports for one word where what I actually mean is basketball and baseball and soccer and football and hockey and lacrosse and swimming and diving are entertaining. I am utilizing sports as a collective singular noun where all of sports, the entire sportosphere, is one thing. All of sports is one thing, and therefore sports is entertaining. The realm of sports is entertaining. It is similar to how you might say politics is messy. Math is hard. Right? It is a singular collective noun. They are single fields which wrap and include a whole lot of different iterations of it. When I say mathematics, I'm talking about algebra and calculus and trigonometry and whatever else. When I say politics, I am talking about local, national, regional, federal. I am talking about every different form of it wrapped into one word utilized to describe all of those things as a singular entity. When I said sports is entertaining, I am using the word sports to contain the entire sportosphere as one item, sports at large, not sports are entertaining, where I would be saying football, basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever are all entertaining. Pardon me for nerding out for just a minute, but also I'm right. Texture said, Rob, part of the reason the ratings are down this year is because we don't have a heel team in the finals. Everyone involved is just Too gosh darn likable. That's from Spike. Spike, appreciate that text on the Hub City Spartanburger text line at 844-326-3663. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not incorrect there. Everything is wrestling. It's not a wrestling segment. I'm not talking wrestling here. Stick with me. But everything is wrestling. The reason wrestling works is because it is an art form. Shut up, it is. The reason wrestling works is because it is an art form that takes all of the things that we love and hate as human beings and it turns it into a show. And one of the things that we love, as is evidenced by everything that we've ever created, is the general concept of good versus evil. We love a good versus evil story. And even if the thing that is standing in for the concept of evil in our good versus evil story isn't actually evil, we like to portray it as evil because we would rather portray something as evil to have a good versus evil story than not have a good versus evil story at all. So when we can portray something as evil, the New York Yankees, and hate on that thing as if it is actually evil. The New York Yankees, we call them the evil empire. Are the New York Yankees actually evil? No. They're just a baseball team. You may hate the way they've run their franchise for a billion years, but they're not actually evil. They are not evil personified. But we like to hate things. Hating things is fun. It's kind of one of the most fun things you can do. Hating is something a lot of people do professionally. People make millions of dollars just being haters. We love to hate on things. And what Spike just said right there, I think is correct. With the exception of SGA in his I'm a flop phase, there's really nothing to hate about the Oklahoma City Thunder. There's really nothing to hate about the Thunder. In my opinion, there's damn sure nothing to hate about the Indiana Pacers. There's nothing to hate. There's no heel. There's no bad guy. And when there's no bad guy, a lot of people are going to tune out. You might tune in to watch the New York Yankees play the LA Dodgers because you might tune in. That's two heel teams. That's two teams we hate. But, man, somebody's going to lose, and we are going to revel in watching a team we hate take that big fat L at the end of the year. But when two faces go against it, when two faces get after each other, again, everything is wrestling. When it's good guy versus good guy, it's kind of hard to pick a side. I don't really want anybody to lose. And I think, and I mean this, as sports fans and as people, we'd rather watch two entities we don't like go at it. We take more pleasure in watching someone take an L than watching someone earn a dub. Right? Like, what's the old phrase? My favorite two teams are my team and whoever beats the other team, right? With our team, we take great pleasure in a win. But if we're talking about everybody who's not our team, I think we take more pleasure in watching another team take an L than we do in watching any other team take a dub. Because if I'm not a Pacers guy, and the Pacers win the NBA title, I might look and go, good for them. They're a good team. They're nice. They're fun. Good for them. But I'm not going to celebrate that victory the way I would if my New Orleans Pelicans were to ever win an NBA title. Fat chance, I know. But if the Pacers were playing the Lakers and I wanted to hate on the Lakers, I would take great joy in watching the L be handed out. If the LA Dodgers make the World Series this year, I hate the Dodgers. If the LA Dodgers make the World Series and they're playing against the team that, let's just say another team I like. I don't know, pick one. The Pirates. If the Dodgers make the World Series and I hate the Dodgers, I will not take joy in another team winning the World Series the way I would if the Braves did. I would take great joy in watching the Dodgers lose the World Series. I would take immense joy in watching a team I hate. I like the Indiana Pacers. Even despite the fact that Mario's a fan, I like the Indiana Pacers. I like the Oklahoma City Thunder. There's not a team to hate in this NBA Finals. There's no heel. It's two faces. And I'm not going to take as much joy in a Pacers championship or a Thunder championship as I would in a Pelicans championship. But if the Pacers were playing the Lakers, or if the Thunder were playing the Knicks, I would take great joy in watching the Lakers or the Knicks lose the finals. So because there's nobody to take joy in watching the L, it kind of hurts the product. And because of the fact that we're not treating this like the absolute 7-game banger that it's turning out to be, I think the NBA is doing itself somewhat of a disservice just making it feel like another group of games. Time for a sports flash as soon as I can find out where the hell my mouse is and get my news stories pulled up. Here they are. Hey, speak of the devil. The NBA Finals are headed to a Game 7 after the Pacers dismantled the Thunder last night, 108-91. The Pacers missed their opening 8 shots, but went on a heater, leading by as many as 30 in the third quarter. Tyrese Halliburton played despite a calf injury, recording 14 and 5 assists, but the leading scorer, Obi Toppin, with 20 off the bench. The U.S. men's national soccer team into the knockout round of the Gold Cup after a 1-0 victory over Saudi Arabia last night. Chris Richards scored the lone goal off of a second-half free kick from Sebastian Berhalter, giving the Americans 3 points. The Trinidad and Tobago squad played to a 1-1 draw, clinching a spot for the Yanks. And the Atlanta Braves finished a 3-game sweep of the division-leading New York Mets with a 7-1 victory last night. Spencer Strider earned his second win of the year, went 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 8 Ks. The Braves had 8 hits, including a 3 RBI double that broke the game open from Matt Olson.
On your radio at 97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville, 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone.
Hey, man. I got it, buddy. Don't worry about it.
Search The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just
All good, man.
97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC.
Happens. Don't worry about it. I got it.
There's just one more thing. And on your
I appreciate you
computer
coming
at
by.
FanUpstate.com.
Up to the minute, upstate traffic. Northbound 85 has slowed
I
way
appreciate
down
you doing
again
that.
between
Thank you for being here.
385 and Pelham Road. Not just the work zone, but now there's a crash northbound 85 before Muddy Ferry Road. Not causing major delays, but you will be crawling along around
I'm good,
mile
man. I got it. I
52.
appreciate it.
Wade Hampton and White
Take
Horse are
off.
both
I'll
in
handle the
good
show the
shape,
rest of the
as is
way.
Succeed again. Get an affordable online skill.
What's up, you handsome son of a gun?
Good morning. Good morning.
Offers no
How we doing,
cost
partner?
digital materials in place of textbooks.
Excellent. How are you?
I believed you would be
tuition
this morning.
and over 21
I'm not
million
shocked by that at all.
scholarship opportunities
After
each
watching you
year.
fist pump like
Find out if
Tiger
you
Woods at
qualify at
16, 19
UNGC.edu.
times during the show last night, I figured you threw your shoulder out.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant,
I'm just happy we get a game 7.
Nothing better in sports.
from finding ways
By the way, shout out to fellow Braves fan Andrew pulling by. Break out the brooms. The Bravos sweep the Mets just like I knew they would. Never a doubt, Mario. Never a doubt.
so you can always play it safe. Call 1-800.
We're back.
Oh no, we are not back. We got a lot of work to do. We just swept them in 3 games. We're still down 10 in the division. We are not back.
Rise and shine. Make breakfast.
Got a lot of
and
work
wash
to do.
away the night's rest. These routines help us start the day.
How do you
off
feel
right.
about that take we were just talking about?
Vitamins
That there's
are
not a
simple
hateable
step
team in the
that daily
finals, and that
care
kind of
regimen.
maybe is hurting the
Multivitamins
product a little bit.
I literally wrote it down to
Study
bring back up because I think
Cool.
that's
Help
exactly
support
the problem.
Magnesium to help
We'll get to
relax
it.
the body.
Yeah.
Nature Made is made to care for you every day. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Turn on, leave on.
All right, now
is your chance to weigh in on who won the 5 o'clock fight.
Oh,
Text the show 713.
I need a nap, kids. I stayed up late last night for no reason.
Texter says, cook your eggs with A1. You're welcome. Never done that.
How does A1 that it's heated in a pan taste?
I don't know if I'd hate that. Michael in Simpsonville says A1 bold, way better. I have no idea what he's talking about.
It's a flavor of A1.
You're kidding.
It's more A1-y than A1.
And I've never known about this.
We have a follow-up. Texter says, whip the A1 and eggs together.
No way.
I don't know. That's got to be a weird color.
I hate having to be a professional, Mario. Do actual work. It's the worst thing that ever happens.
Let's try it.
Wire to wire.
Isn't it?
With Diesel and
It's the
Cole
worst.
Bryson.
Turn on, leave on. Afternoons 3 to 7 on the
All right, coming back.
Upstate.
Upstate.
WYRD Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville. The official sports voice of you, the Upstate fan. The Fan.
Upstate.
An Odyssey sports station. Warning.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only on
The Fan. Upstate.
And off we go. The final hour of the day, the final hour of the week starts now. This is the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Happy Friday. Gotta get down on Friday, people. I am Rob Brown, the great Malonzo, out on vacation. Well earned, well deserved. He will rejoin us next week. In the meantime, you got me rolling solo. Why? Because I want to, and I'm Ken, and I'm a man of the people. You know who else is a man of the people? Shockingly, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now on the program, ordinarily on Thursdays, but obviously, as we were off yesterday, recognizing and celebrating Juneteenth, he joins us ordinarily on Thursdays, but kind enough to shift up the schedule despite keeping me up way past my bedtime last night, filling in on BetMGM tonight. By the way, be back tonight with my boy Ryan Horvat and my dude Mario Heron, a.k.a. Hatin' Ass Mario, who joins us now on the program. What's up, dog?
Oh, my gosh. The two best words in sports.
Oh, wait, I pushed the wrong button because I'm doing this by myself. What's up, dog? I turned the phone lines on because I'm a moron. I was up till like 12:30 this morning.
You just get the phone lines open. Let's get the fans in here, bro. Get the listenership. That's what's called a little customer engagement, little audience engagement. That's good stuff. No, the two best words in sports, man. Game 7. I'm excited. It's awesome. I'm happy that we get one more week or so. I'd say week, because Sunday is the first day of the week. It's not Monday for people that don't know. So one more week of NBA basketball. That's fantastic. I'll take it. And what a display of basketball by Indiana last night, because at the end of the day, Rob, in 49 states, it's just basketball. But this is Indiana.
You know, I was pretty excited to have you on this morning. I'm like, what a game we had. What a great show we had last night. What a game we had last night. Mario's going to be all sorts of hype, and I'm really excited about it. And then you keep saying that same dumbass phrase over and over and over. No, listen, there's a lot of sports that don't, or a lot of states that don't care about basketball, Mario, but you're a fan of the North Carolina Tar Heels. Don't tell me it means less in North Carolina. Don't tell me if I go to the TD Waterhouse Garden or whatever the hell it's called in Boston, the people there don't buzz when the Celtics are good. Like, yes, Indiana has a absolutely electric home court. Do you know what's going to happen Sunday night? You're going to be playing down in Oklahoma City. And it's not like their home court advantage is less good than Indiana's right now.
No, it's not. But, hey, you just got to enjoy the moment. Like, that's my whole thing with this team. People are like, oh, it doesn't matter. You know, well, good luck in Game 7 here and get your butts kicked or whatever. My whole thing with that, they weren't supposed to be here anyways. This team had zero expectation. They made a run last year, and people were like, oh, this is the Atlanta Hawks from a couple years ago. They probably won't do the same. They're playing with house money, so who the hell cares? Enjoy the ride. The same thing when I was listening to Chicago radio this morning. It's the same thing with the Cubs right now. I am a Cubs fan. When people are like, oh, what's wrong with this bullpen? Can this bullpen take him anywhere? How about we just enjoy that our baseball team's good for the first time in like 5 years And then in the summer when there's nothing on TV and you just watched Peaky Blinders for like the 8th time in a row, you're like, hey, maybe turn on some baseball. It's going to be pretty entertaining. Just enjoy the ride. Lock in. Let's have a good time. Maybe pour yourself a cocktail. Sit next to the wifey. Sit next to the husband. Give him a fat kiss on the lips, maybe on the cheek, whatever you want to do, and just have a good time.
Hating ass Mario from the BetMGM Network here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, let's dive into what happened last night, and then we'll spend a few minutes previewing this Game 7. There were a few things that we pointed out last night. SGA pointed out after the game that Indy flipped up the defense a little bit, right? They had been picking them up for 94 feet, playing a full court. Last night, kind of picking them up at the half court. To me, I also saw a few times that they would pick up at the half court, but they were not showing what defense they were going to rotate into until they picked them up at the half court. It was picking up in man a couple of times. It was picking up in a half court trap a couple of times. It was dropping off into a zone a couple of times. All of those things, however, revolved around clogging up the paint, saying, SGA, you are not welcome down here where the hardwood changes color. It's going to be somebody else that's going to have to beat us there. I thought Rick Carlisle yesterday put on a master class of switching it up, giving them different looks, and trying to confuse the Thunder, make them go later into the shot clock than they'd like. My question is, now that the Thunder have seen it, A, is that what you saw last night? And B, would that be effective again in a Game 7 situation?
So here's the thing. Mark said this to Mark Daigneault, the Thunder head coach, before Game 5. He said there's always adjustments. There's always an adjustment to make. So I expect something drastic to come from the Thunder in Game 7 to make sure that they can win this NBA Finals. But what the Pacers did last night, I thought was exceptional. I said in this program, I believe last week, you can put like Hakeem, Rudy Gobert, and Shaq in the paint, and SGA is still going to be able to get that ball through the hoop if he drives in the paint. Well, the Pacers, I felt like for the first time in NBA history, they were blocking SGA left and right when he goes in the paint. He was struggling to kind of see the basket as he was jumping into the air, which I thought was huge. Something else I love that they did is they never really let him get comfortable. Every time he kind of went that post up, or you see that he was going into the kind of find his mid-range, if you saw his back, you attacked. And that was something like McConnell was doing that multiple times. Mather did that. Naismith was doing that, where just whoever's on the backside of him came and just forced a little scramble for the basketball, poked it loose, and boom, the Pacers are going the other way. The effect of that defense led to 21 turnovers by the Thunder. The Pacers, 10. So that's huge. Also, I don't know if you've heard this before, Rob, but bench players play better at home and not away. But that came into effect again last night. We saw in Game 3 where the Pacers bench absolutely rocked Thunders. That happened again yesterday. At halftime, it was 19 points off the bench of the Pacers to 3 of the Thunder. That changed overall in the game, but, that's because of garbage time points. Obviously, Thunder went deep in their bench because, hey, we're waving the white flag. This game's over. So guys started scoring, so that number got a little bit skewed. But the 19-3 at half told the story of the game. And I think for Thunder in the Game 7, what you got to do is, one, you got to free up SGA more. You got to adapt to that defense. And the biggest thing I'm curious that they do is in the past 2 games, they rested SGA more, right? Like a 5-minute mark in the first quarter, he comes out. Second quarter, he is lighter on the minutes. So second half, he can just go in there and, it's just see you later, buddy. You're in trouble. That worked the past 2 games. Last game, suddenly that's not working anymore. What do they do now? Do they stay with that rotation? Do they adjust it? Do they go SGA? This doesn't matter. When you go to the bench, you're going to get a coffee. You got to be, in this game the whole time for us to win. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that, with their rotations, and how much they lean on that, and or if they change up in any way. Because, this is for all the marbles. You can't – any card you have in the back pocket has to be put on the table.
So first off, don't disagree with any of that, which is very unusual for one of our discussions. But I think that there's another aspect of that, and we've been talking quite a bit about Rick Carlisle putting the boys in the position to win. But you mentioned the bench players play better at the crib. I was on your show Tuesday when I said I thought T.J. McConnell coming out of the game for an injured Tyrese Halliburton in Game 4 was a big-time mistake, or excuse me, Game 5 was a big-time mistake. In fact, I put out a video that day that said, if the Pacers lose this series, I'm not saying it's Carlisle and Halliburton's fault for making that switch, but, like, that's absolutely part of the equation. TJ McConnell was the hero of a game that they lost. He was the reason it was close in Game 5. Dude was an absolute stud again last night. Not in terms of going off for points, but just keeping the points rolling when they were giving Tyrese a breather or giving Nembhard and Naismith a breather on the bench, whatever. How important has that dude been to the fact that this team now has a tied series going to Game 7?
Huge, and it's not only because of, like you said, like sometimes he'll go off for the points, right? And like even last night, he was 12, 9, and 6. But it's the energy boost that he kind of gives. It's that energy shock where your team is suddenly playing better, where the crowd gets more into it because they see him coming in. That kind of change in momentum or change in attitude when he enters the game is huge. It's massive. It's very, very important for the Pacers. And I think he's a big part of their identity of TJ McConnell is a player that is willing to do anything to get the basketball, to win the game, to kind of win those 50-50 balls. He will dive on the floor. He will dive into the stands. He will dive into the players' knees. He will be the most annoying little brat out there on the floor. And that is huge for the people watching. That's huge for the guys on the bench because that just speaks to everyone going, all right, if TJ is giving it his all, we're going to give it all. And I don't know how to put this nicely, but TJ was not born with a lot of gifts of like, yeah, we're going to make you into an NBA player. I would actually say he was probably born behind the 8 ball on making it to the NBA. So that is another factor. Like, hey, if this guy's giving it all, maybe we can. And he's a leader out there. And, like, keep in mind, too, this is a guy that's been in the league for a very long time. Like, he's been around the block. It's not like he's a third-year player doing this, a second-year guy. No, like, he's been in the league for a minute, seen multiple different defenses, been at different stops. His role is massive. And like you said, it takes pressure off Tyrese where you go, Tyrese, you can go rest that calf. You know, you can go, it's the back brace is nothing new, by the way. He's been wearing that, but like you can go rest your back for a little bit. And I think taking that pressure off a very young player in his first ever NBA finals is very, very big. It's very, very important because there's nothing I think worse for a young player's development than to be in those key moments and where like, okay, let's just keep in mind, these young players now too, they're 21, 22 entering these NBA finals. Like 21, 22-year-old with all that kind of pressure, you're going to poop down your leg just a little bit. And to have that someone that can ease it instead of going, oh, my God, I didn't perform well. Now everything's on me. ESPN the next day, Stephen A. Smith's calling me a loser and my parents should be disappointed in me. Like, oh, my God, oh, my God. Tyrese doesn't have that. And I think that's going to be very, very huge for not only this run, but multiple runs that will come after with this group that the Pacers have if it all stay intact.
So in the two biggest wins for Indiana, which I think were Game 1 on the road and then last night, there was an anomaly of a stat in there for both of those. In Game 1, top of my head, if I recall, didn't the Indiana have like 56 rebounds in that game? Like it was some dumb number that should not have existed. Yeah. And then last night, it was 21 turnovers, including a career-high 8 from SGA, which is just not Thunder basketball at all. There was a statistical anomaly in both of those games that I think you can circle in green and go, that's the reason that Indiana was able to grab these 2 wins. Was that Indiana causing it? Was it Oklahoma City failing in a certain spot? And are you going to be leaning on one of those outlier numbers if this team can win a Game 7? Or do you think this team's just good enough to go play their best basketball and steal a win on the road one more time?
I think there's a little bit of kind of spot heavy where the Pacers were against the wall. They're against the ropes. They're facing an elimination game, and they were desperate. And they were willing to do anything to win it. And you can see that in these individual stats. Like a big one for me that stood out was offensive rebounding. Pacers had 11. Thunder had 4. 11 opportunities to get another basket with a very high-powered offense is very, very scary. It's not going to work out for you. That's, I think, a little bit of the factor. And if someone last night pointed to like Thunder's 3-point shooting being a problem, and I was like, dude, If you think that was a problem in this game, you should like watch the rest of the playoff games. It's been a problem. And they still win and they still perform. I think the factor that I am going to look into heaviest in Game 7, and it's going to be I know it's going to sound nuts, but it's going to be Alex Caruso versus Toppin and McConnell. Who's going to play better? Because in these spots, that second unit, whoever owns the other unit, wins these games. When Caruso steps up big and he's hitting the three-point shots and he's being the best, I would say, middle linebacker, shout out Brian Urlacher, those days of where he's calling everything out and he's making the quarterback, adjust off the last second. When he's doing that defensively, Thunder are rolling. We saw last night, Toppin 20 points off the bench, electrifies the crowd, hitting shots, playing great defense, getting boards. TJ McConnell, same thing. If those guys are out playing that second unit of Thunder, they're in trouble. That's, I think, the biggest key into next one. Yeah, are people going to – does Tyrese having to play well matter? Yeah. Siakam, yeah, obviously have to play. But it's those guys that I really do think that's the most important thing. And that, yeah, if SGA scores more than 35 points, does that lead to a Thunder win? Probably. But also what's going to lead to a Thunder win if Caruso goes 17, 9, 4 steals. Last game, game 5, he had 3 steals at half. I took the over 2.5 steals plus blocks. If we see that in this game, Pacers are going to be in more trouble.
You mentioned there the battle of the reserves that this comes down to. I had somebody, I played a clip earlier from one of the big talking heads that said, the best part about Game 7 is it's SGA versus Tyrese. It's the 2 stars slugging it out. And my thought was, no, it's really not. SGA is going to do SGA stuff. Tyrese is going to do Tyrese stuff. The question is, who's going to be the dogs coming off the bench? In the games that OKC has won, it's because Caruso has come in and knocked down 3, 4, 5 three-pointers and picked up 6, 7 assists. In the games that Indiana's won or given themselves a chance to, it's because TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin have been lights out. It 100% feels like the reserves show in Game 7. And if that is the case, Mario, then I would make an argument there's a very good chance Game 7 comes down to coaching. It's going to come down to the fellow with a clipboard that understands the reserves and gives his reserves the best chance to win. And if Game 7 comes down to coaching, I got a lot of respect for what Dagnall's doing in Oklahoma City. Rick Carlisle wins them the championship. Give me your full breakdown preview of Game 7. Are we going to be talking next week with Mario hungover 3 days in a row from an NBA championship or hungover 3 days in a row out of sadness and grief?
I would love. Oh God! In my head, I think Thunder. In my heart, I think Pacers. I'll say that.
I think it's fair. Honestly, it's fair.
Yeah, I think what we're gonna see in Game 7 is the utmost pressure on Tyrese from floor to floor. They're gonna make sure that he is bent over, can't breathe that whole game. And I think they're gonna go. If I had to guess, they're gonna go. We're just gonna do everything we can to take out Tyrese and Siakam. If Siakam scores under 25, I think Pacers lose that game. If you want to give like a stat wise. I think SGA probably is going to get his 35 easy. I think J-Dubs is going to get his probably 20. The battle of the benches, Caruso is probably going to hit 3+ threes in that game. That's what I would really, really like and kind of lean towards. And I think when all said and done, it's going to come down to the wire, and it's going to be probably a little bit of the story that we saw in Game 4. And I think the Thunder are going to win. I still think that's going to happen. It pains me to say it, but I think also the home court is going to play a huge factor in this game. Yeah, I'm going to lean Thunder. This is a really tough battle.
It's the confidence in you that I like the most. Mario Herron, the executive producer of BetMGM tonight. You can hear it tonight on this very program, or very radio station, with perhaps the most handsome substitute fill-in guest host of all time. Tune in at 7 o'clock to find out if that is true or not. My man, appreciate it as always. Good luck on Sunday. I may FaceTime you Sunday night just to see absolutely how wrecked you are either way.
Please do. And hey, make sure you guys tune in tonight because not only are we talking NBA Finals Game 7, we had an NBA draft preview. People forget that is 1 week away. We have a college baseball preview that's going to be freaking phenomenal. And Rob Brown, the WWE genius and historian himself, is giving out his best heels of all time in the wrestling entertainment world. Gosh, you got to tune into right now.
Listen to him. He's my Flava Flav. Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Heron, a.k.a. Hating Ass Mario from the BetMGM Network. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Your one-stop shop for sports betting insight. It's MGM Tonight on the BetQL Network. Tonight at 7, only on The Fan
Upstate.
The Fan Upstate. Here's how to get in the game. On your radio at 97.7
Nice
FM.
job, man.
Greenville, 97.1 FM.
Thank you.
58.
By the way, that is a really good
Listen on
point
your
about
phone. Download the
both
Odyssey
these
app
teams
and
are
search for
not.
The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot
Are
more
two,
to know
like,
about sound
baby
if you really
faces.
want to go into the
Yeah,
subject.
oh, damn it. I knew I forgot to ask you something. The thing that you wrote down to ask you about. That's all good. We'll get to it tonight.
Yeah.
I think it's a good take.
Yeah, let's talk about tonight. Yeah, please. Because it's the most. I have a whole thing on the Thunder about, I think, the way they draft. I think they want guys that just, they don't talk. They don't give the media anything. They just play
Team basketball
I think
players.
that's what Presti, that's what he builds around, which is absolutely terrible for media and future book writers. We're like, all right, it's like writing about the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
Yeah, we're not writing about
I
Tim
concur.
Duncan.
The Fan Upstate.
All right, big dog. Got a jet. Appreciate you. You're the best. I'll see you in like 8 hours or something.
Yeah, I'll text you guys in like an hour or so of everything that we talked
Sounds
about
good.
last night. We'll be good to go. Peace.
You know, I show up and do whatever. See you then. All
Coastal Carolina has once again proven they're more than a mid-major.
right, guys.
They're
Stay
a
right there.
national
I'll be back in
force.
just a minute.
With
Don't go
great
anywhere.
pitching,
I didn't have a baseball team when I was born. But because of the fact that the Atlanta Braves were easily accessible as they were on TNT all the time when I was a youth, I grew up an Atlanta Braves fan. And as I grew up as an Atlanta Braves fan, there were a couple of commandments that you would follow as a Braves fan. Number one, thou shalt never forsake the Braves. Number two, thou shalt hate the Phillies and the Mets. And you will pick one of those two teams to despise more than the other, but you will hate both of them at the same time. I picked the Mets. Now, I will acknowledge that in fairness, the reason why was, as I grew up in the Deep South, it was just because I was told my whole life that the city of New York sucks and everyone from the city of New York sucks. I have come around on that opinion. I love New York City. It's a fantastic place. And as I now work with a handful of people that live and work in New York City, the people from New York are great. They're of a different mentality than we are. When you live on an island that has 5 million people on it and it's only a mile long, you're just constantly surrounded by people all the time. And I've learned as I have aged, gotten older, now in my early 40s, I have come to the conclusion that while Rob Brown does have a social battery and I do like to be around people, I like to be around a limited number of people. If you put me into a gigantic group of people for like a day or two, I eventually start to lose my temper a little bit. All I'm saying is I understand the hustle and bustle of New York can kind of wear on people's patience. So I don't really hate New York fans like I used to. However, my hatred of the New York Mets still abides. That's never going to stop. I'm just always going to hate the Mets, which made the last 3 days of Atlanta Braves baseball the first time in probably 2 months that I've actually had fun, enjoyed watching Atlanta Braves baseball. The sweep of the New York Metropolitans over the last 3 days was the most fun that I have had as a Braves fan, honestly, probably dating back to the World Series win of 2021. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've texted my Braves friends more in the last 3 days than I have texted them in probably the last 3 years about our baseball team. Now, if you tune in to the live stream of this show every day, available at facebook.com/TheFanUpstate, The Fan Upstate on X, The Fan Upstate on YouTube, or The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube, you will notice that since opening week, you have not seen Rob Brown adorned in any gear, any merch, any swag of his favorite baseball team. But today you will find Rob Brown adorned in his Chipper Jones jersey and his classic throwback all blue with the white script A Atlanta Braves hat. That is 100% because the Braves swept the Mets. Now, I do want to be clear. Felt real good. Felt real good. The boys were buzzing last night when the Bravos took a 7-1 win and swept the New York Metropolitans at the crib. Buzzing. But I also want to caution Braves fans. Absolutely felt good. Absolutely felt spectacular. Best I've felt about this baseball team since like week 2 when I realized, we're not as good as I hoped we were going to be. Despite a 3-game swing, despite a 3-game sweep, the Braves are still 10 games back of this same New York Mets team. Now, there is one word that I have used about the Braves. Well, that I've used opposite about the Braves. I guess I should say one word that I have said I wish I could use about the Braves, but have not been able to use about the Braves all year long, and that word is consistent. The Braves have not been consistent. That's a good 3-game set. They've won, 7 out of the last 9? 3 in a row, 7 out of the last 9. You've climbed back. You were, 13 down? Now you're down 10. That's great. The question mark is, can it be consistent? Now, a couple of weeks ago, when the Braves had a 3-game set against the Phillies, one of them got rained out. They dropped the 2 they did play. And that dropped the Braves back 11 of Philadelphia at the time. Now they're 10 back of both Philly and New York, tied for the NL East division lead. I threw a number out there, and that number was 6. I threw 2 numbers out. The numbers were 10 and 6. I said, here's where I'm at. If the Braves are within 6 games of whoever is in the divisional lead, at the All-Star break, I'll feel okay. Because the Braves have been a better team in the second half the last couple of years than they have been in the first half, A. And B, the Braves have the easiest schedule. Despite being done with the Rockies, the Braves have the easiest second half schedule of anybody in the division. So if they're within 6, I'd like to think there's a 3 to 4 game difference just in strength of schedule in the second half. And then the Braves really only need to overcome 3 or 4 games of being a better baseball team. But if at the All-Star break the Braves are 10 or further away, you can go ahead and write the season off. There will be no wild card. There will be no divisional championship. It'll be season over. Now, right now, the Braves are sitting on that opposite of a magic number 10, but we are still, 3 weeks away from the All-Star break, 3 weeks away from the halfway point. You're sitting on about 75, 76 games played right now. So we're not quite to halfway. We're getting closer. You got about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. All-Star game, by the way, I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm not going. I've decided. I know I hate myself too. I know I'm going to kick myself in the nads for skipping out on the All-Star game, but the public release of tickets was Wednesday. I was logged in when the public release of tickets went live. I was looking at north of $500 to sit in the upper deck of Truist Park, like left field line, way out in left field, way up in the top row, north of $500. I can't do it. I know I'm a bad fan. I know that the 8-year-old childhood Rob Brown is going to be real disappointed in the 40-year-old adult Rob Brown, but what do you want? I got a wife, 2 dogs, and a all-inclusive, no kids resort vacation planned in December. I can't do it, okay? But blah, 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 put that away. That's a different conversation for a different segment. The Braves are sitting on that 10 number right now with about 15, 17 games left to play before we get to the All-Star break. And I'm going to stay on those numbers. If the Braves can, whether it is because they start playing great baseball or the Mets keep playing tragic baseball and the Phillies keep Philliesing and those numbers, whatever the reason is, those numbers cross. I'm sticking with where I'm sticking. If we get to the break and we're still 10 games off the pace, I don't think there's playoffs in this team's future. As much as I have been not pushing the panic button, I have been bringing a sledgehammer down on the panic button like I am Hunter Hearst Helmsley from 2005. What out? If the Braves get to within 6 by the All-Star break, maybe there's a chance. You have the 4th worst record in the National League. The only reason you don't have the 3rd worst record in the National League is because the Nationals have lost 11 in a row, something even the Braves have not managed to pull off yet. But you have a better record than the Nationals, the Pirates, and the Rockies. That's the list. You're way out of a wild card spot. The good news is everybody else that's in a wild card spot right now all feel like teams that are catchable. In the National League right now, ahead of the Braves in the wild card race are the Mets and the Phillies. One of them's going to win the East. One of them's going to be a wild card spot. You are 10 games back there. In the NL Central, the Brewers, the Cardinals, and the Reds all have 5 or 6 games in hand on you. Catchable baseball team. I think the Cardinals are going to fall off at some point. I think the Reds are going to fall off at some point. Then you have the Brewers probably going to be playing second fiddle to the Cubs. That's a good offensive baseball team. Chicago right now sitting on a run differential that's been hovering around 110 all year. Good offensive baseball team. The problem you're going to bump into is the NL West is good, man. The NL West is good. The Diamondbacks, who were playing bad baseball a couple of weeks ago, were starting to catch up a little bit. 6-4 in the last 10. They've turned it around. Not great. And they lost Corbin Burns. That's a big step back. The Padres are playing arguably the worst baseball they've played in probably 4 or 5 years. They are 3-7 in the last 10. They are still 6 games over 500. They are still 6 games ahead of the Atlanta Braves right now. The Giants are 42-33. They are 3.5 games back of the best baseball team ever assembled, the LA Dodgers. And oh, by the way, while they did lose one of their best pitchers who got sent out to Boston, they pick up Rafi Devers in return. Devers is going to play first, or he's going to play third, or he's going to DH. It doesn't matter. They put a bat in the lineup, which is one spot that the Giants have been lacking. They've needed a power guy in the middle. Now they've got that guy in Rafi Devers. The Giants aren't going anywhere. I'm at the point now where I'm thinking to myself, if the Braves can get to 500, it's a long shot chance. There's still a chance. The problem you're going to bump into is in the NL West, 500 would put you tied for second to last, and the only reason it's not last is because the Rockies. 500 would put you second to last in the NL Central. The only reason you're not last is because the Pirates. And 500 puts you third in the NL East, but again, 6 games back of the 2 teams on top. I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking the only way the Braves go to the playoffs this year is if they win the division. Is that possible? Yeah, but I'm going to say my number 6 stands. If we get to the All-Star break and the Braves are 6 games within the Mets and the Phillies, then there is a chance they could go on a run, play great second-half ball against one of the weaker second-half schedules in Major League Baseball, and maybe they can make it up. If the Braves are 10 or further back, there is no chance. There is no way to come back from that. And I do think with the Brewers being 5 above 500 better than expected, the Cardinals being 5 above 500 better than expected, hell, the Reds being 3 above 500 better than expected, with the Giants being 9 over 500 exactly as expected, the Padres being 6 over 500 exactly as expected, the Diamondbacks being 500 worse than expected, with all these teams who are well above 500, and then also Arizona, who is 500. I don't think there's a wild card spot for Atlanta. I think you have one option. I think you have to win this division. I think every wild card is going to come out of the Central and maybe almost exclusively out of the West. And if that's the case, there is no wild card room for Atlanta. I think you will have to catch New York and you will have to catch Philadelphia. Is it possible? I don't know. The Mets are LOL Metsing right now. And you know the Phillies at some point are going to LOL Phillies in the second half. And if they're going to do that, the door will be open. But as I've said a bunch of times, what you cannot do is have such a gap between you and them when they inevitably LOL Mets and LOL Phillies in the second half, that even if you're playing your best ball, you can't catch up. You have to have a thin enough gap that when they inevitably give you 4 or 5 games back, you are within 4 or 5 games to strike and take a lead. If you are sitting at 10 games back and they give you 4 or 5 back and you can't make up the other 4 or 5, the Braves are cooked. So, I am happy today. I am adorned in red, white, and blue. I am adorned in Braves gear. I feel real good. As I did with Pat Boyle back in hour 2, I'll talk a bunch of smack to the Mets fans right now because LOL Mets. But my dudes and dudettes, you got 4 more games to make up between here and the break, or the season is still a wash. The good news is you're playing well enough that you're covering up Brian Snitker. I don't have to have Snit managing decisions and therefore mistakes at the end of games. You're taking Brian Snitker out as a variable. That's great. If we get back to the point where he is a variable in the equation, that's where I think we're in trouble. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Today's show sent straight to your phone. Text Fan Brown to 71307 or listen on demand at thefanupstate.com. This is the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the
all right, dudes and dudettes, stick right there. I'll be back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.
For the Braves over the
That's 844-FAN-PHONE. This is the Rod Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Final segment of the day, final segment of the show, final segment of the week here on the Rod Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Great to have you all. 844-326-3663 if you want to sneak in here for the end of the broadcast, you're welcome to. That is the number to the Hub City Spartanburger text line, 844-326-3663. You can shoot us a call if you want to get on the air for the end of the show. You can also shoot me a tweet at The Rob Brown Show. Follow me across all the social media on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever, at The Rob Brown Show. And get me an email, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com if you want to get at us in that direction. Couple of texts on the text line as it stands right now as we clean this bad boy up. Texter said, Rob, remember like 3 days ago when Tyrese Halliburton had 4 points and people lost their minds? Me neither. Oh, no, listen, I was one of them. I'll own it. And here's the thing. The two takes are not mutually exclusive. An injured Tyrese Halliburton should not have been placed back onto the hardwood in game number 5. TJ McConnell was balling out. The Thunder had no answer for TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell gave you a better chance to win that basketball game in Game 5. TJ McConnell should have stayed on the floor. The pride of Tyrese Halliburton and the, pushoverness of Carlisle trying to make his star happy cost them not the win, but the chance to earn the win. That is not a thought that precludes me from saying Tyrese Halliburton on one wheel last night was spectacular. Yeah, the point line wasn't there the way you wanted it to with 14. No, the assist line wasn't there the way you wanted it to with 6. 14 is the point total that I expect for Tyrese Halliburton to go along with 14 assists. That's what I expect. He didn't get that, but he didn't need to. Tyrese Halliburton's benefit to the Pacers last night was not scoring an assist. It was distraction. The goal was to get the ball to Pascal Siakam. The goal was to let Obi Toppin and TJ McCollum off the bench give you a big plus in the plus-minus category against their reserve players. Tyrese Halliburton was meant to be the, hey, look at me, not the, hey, look at me. There's a difference. He was meant to be the, hey, look at me, not, hey, look at me. There's a difference. And it worked out well for the Pacers. You combine that with the fact that Rick Carlisle kind of played with the defense a little bit, kind of changed up the looks they were throwing at OKC, and OKC did not have the ability to overcome that, to adapt to that. That was a coaching masterclass from Rick Carlisle. So I can say, I think the Pacers screwed the Pacers in Game 5, but also say, the Pacers boosted the Pacers in Game 6. They gave themselves a chance in Game 6, and they took advantage of that chance. Those aren't mutually exclusive thoughts. Texas said, Rob, you forgot about the hate that Braves fans must also have for the Minnesota Twins. I'll keep it a buck. I remember that World Series loss. That you remember the story I told a couple of days ago where I said the old man took me to the Shalimar Diner and we ate chocolate milkshakes, and that was the night that my old man taught me about the concept of losing and how to lose with grace. How to understand that sometimes you can do the best you're going to do and it's not good enough because someone's just better than you are. It was that World Series. And yet, I don't really hate the Twins. I don't hate them. That was just a baseball team that won the baseball championship that year. I don't hate the Twins. I hate the Mets. I hate the Phillies. I don't hate the Twins, but I get it. Dewey, text the show, said Braves will get swept by the Marlins. Dewey, I thought we were making progress, buddy. I thought we were making progress. I thought we were back on the same page. I thought we were amigos again. And now you're hitting me with Braves will get swept by the Marlins. Dewey, come on, man. You're better than that. Be better than that. Texas said, Rob, the NL East teams are looking at the schedules and looking for the jobber teams they can squash and get back in the race. Philly will Philly. You just gotta beat the mid-Carters. Another texter said Phillies will drop 3 of 4 to teams like the Marlins and Nationals at some point for no reason but go Phillies, damn it. Yeah, I feel you. I'm a Braves fan right now. I feel you. I agree. That is one of the reasons that I decided to break out the Braves gear today. Aside from sweeping the Mets, shout out New York City. What up? How y'all doing? One of the reasons I decided to break out the Braves jersey is I see light. Granted, it's like faded and way off in the distance. You know how it gets to be sunset, you're sitting out in the backyard, you're having a beer with the dog, and you look up and there's like just that first star comes into focus, just like that one, just that first little pinpoint of light comes into focus, right? That's the light at the end of the tunnel for the Braves. It is just one singular tiny little, just a little pinpoint of light way off light years in the distance. But it's there. Much like that first star coming out at sunset on a beautiful upstate South Carolina evening. When you see it, you know there's a possibility that it's going to be a beautiful night. There's a possibility that we're going to have a beautiful evening ahead of us. That's where I'm at right now. It's just one little pinpoint of light, but it's there. And let's keep it a buck. We're sports fans. We're always in it for the optimism. We're sports fans. We're no matter what, no matter how bad it is, we're sports fans. There's going to be unless you're a Pirates fan. We're sports fans. We're always going to believe that even if it's a 0.001% chance, if we do it, we're going to make history. It's kind of like the Pacers. Plus 550 underdogs. The Thunder were minus 750 to win the NBA title. And yet, Pacers fans were going, all we need is a chance, right? That's where we're at right now. All we need is a chance. Well, the Braves have had the door open. This sweep of the Mets, to me, makes it feel like the door is open. Maybe only wide enough to get like a business card in there. But man, if I can get that business card in there just the right way, maybe I can click that lock and we can open the door. It's there. We're sports fans. If there's a chance, there's a chance. Even somebody like me who's been cursing this team out. If they open the door, they open the door. And if the door is open enough to walk through it, I'm going to walk through it. Texas said, Rob, you act like it's impossible for the Braves to overcome a 10-game deficit at the All-Star break. Well, let me tell you something, young whippersnapper. The Braves did just that in 1991 and went to the World Series. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's real damn difficult. I'm saying it doesn't happen that often. And I'm saying, more importantly, there is a difference, Texter, in overcoming a 10-game deficit and winning the division and overcoming a 10-game deficit and making the wild card this year. That wild card race is thick with 2 C's. A lot of good teams in the National League. I've said already, if the Braves were in the American League this year, I'd feel a hell of a lot better. I think there's wild card possibilities for a team that is 6 games below 500 today in the American League. Those possibilities are not there right now in the National League. There are too many really good teams. Unfortunately, we thought the NL Central was going to be a train wreck. It's pretty good. We knew the NL West was going to be pretty good. It's great. It may only be that the path to the playoffs is to win the division, and that's not going to be an easy task if you were down 10 at the break. This is why I've said, to me, the goal is to get down 6 at the break. If you're within 6, I feel a hell of a lot better, because we've seen 6-game leads be erased by this team in the last decade. We've seen I don't think we've seen not that I can remember, unless you want to go back to 1991. Your boy was 6 years old at the time, so I didn't really understand standings at that point because Texter was a young whippersnapper at the time. 6 games I can see. 10 games, that's a big ask, even if the Mets, and even if the Phillies. We'll see. All right, that's going to do it for the week. Give me, College World Series. You know what? I'm not making a pick. Screw it. I'm not making a pick. I want a 3-game set. I want it to be great. I like both these teams. They're very similar. I think LSU's probably better on paper. I think Coastal Carolina's been kind of the like plucky young fun underdog this whole run. I'm not making a pick on the College World Series. My pick is let's go 3 games. Let's all have a championship game together on Monday night. How do you feel about that? That's what I'm in for. NBA, give me the Thunder at home in Game 7. I can't see them losing back-to-back, especially not after they got embarrassed in Game 6. So I'm going to go Thunder in Game 7. No pick in the College World Series other than a lot of good bourbon and great college baseball. And I pick all of you to have a spectacular weekend. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'll be back on Monday. So, Alonzo, come back. We'll have some fun. Have a great weekend. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. My name is Rob Brown. This was the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Later.
Buckle up and get ready for a wild ride of sports talk. This is the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. When it comes to the best sports talk anywhere.
All right, dudes, I got to go do some math. I got to go do Lonzo's job for him. Y'all have a great weekend. Thanks for being here. Follow me on the social. I'll be doing a lot of college baseball this weekend. Enjoy your weekend. You're all amazing people. Tell your friends about us. I'm trying to get rich and retire. I'll see you back here Monday. Hasta luego.
They tell you to be afraid, to be scared.